Good evening, race fans, and welcome here to the third race of the second season of the BackFire Sim Racing League Cup Series as we get ready to take to Nashville Super Speedway. It's throwback night as we prepare for the BackFire 200 presented by Hubka Real Estate Group. About a 1 1/3 mile racetrack, concrete based, and these drivers getting ready for the slipping and sliding of tonight's festivities. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Scott Rankin, and Scott, so far here this season, 2 races, 2 drivers have picked up their first career win here in the BackFire Racing League. So, what do you think? Do we see 3 for 3 here tonight?
I think we're actually on track to actually see probably one of our regulars return to their winning ways, to be perfectly honest with you, Seth. I mean, GJ Daniels has been there, and he's been there and abouts. We've had, to be perfectly honest, there's been a lot of drivers at any stage so far this season that could have put their names forward. I mean, at Daytona, of course, that's always going to happen when you go to Daytona, but more importantly than that, last week when you look at Atlanta's results, there was, Alonso Chicano was right there. We had Bronson Stafford who was right there and led most of the race and couldn't finish it off, and then Woodward came away with it. So ultimately, I think we're on for another action-packed race, and to be perfectly honest, the season thus far has been absolutely phenomenal. Can you remember that race and how good it was last week, Seth?
It was absolutely incredible. Maybe one of the most exciting 10 laps we've ever had the privilege to call, as they were 3 wide, several rows deep. Somehow, some way, even with all the beating and banging, they all kept it straight. And that was a lot of fun to watch those guys in the closing stages duke it out. Some drivers with old tires, some drivers with fresh tires, but certainly one that we're not going to forget. Let's see, though, what they're going to be bringing to the table here tonight at Nashville. And to kick things off, we're going to do pre-race ceremonies. Let's go down and get the invocation here tonight, courtesy of Pastor Zach Woods.
Let's pray. Almighty God, I just thank you for the opportunity to come together tonight as friends from across the world to take advantage of technology that exists in such a time as this to go racing. And Lord, as we come together, let us show some patience to one another and let our words and conversations be fruitful and honorable to you. We thank you for this, and we pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
And now, with the honoring of America, here is our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming
By my last count, 29 drivers are scheduled to take the green flag here this evening. As things stand, with still a little bit of time remaining qualifying, looks like Brock Silvati may continue the streak of a JKR Motorsports driver capturing the pole here this season, but Brock's still trying to see if maybe he can be the first multi-time winner, winning that season opener at Daytona. And you pointed this out last week, Scott, and it was an error on my part. I thought that it was a point your way into the final four for the playoffs, but it also, as you stated, it is actually a point your way into the playoffs as well. So, even more emphasis on consistency for drivers during the course of this regular season.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, sorry, I'm having a few little downloads that I have to get done in the background, so apologies for the glitchiness of my microphone at this point in time. Yeah, look, I mean, in terms of preference, whilst it doesn't create the most exciting race and it doesn't reward winning, it does reward consistency and it does reward consistent showing ups. And in overall health of a league, in overall consistency, and overall basically everything, the best possible outcome is what we're seeing, and ultimately, this is actually a direction I kind of hope NASCAR goes in, because it gives more value to every race right throughout the season, and making sure that you're there and you can't just come do a flash in the pan win and go, yes, I'm locked in, I don't have to worry too much anymore. So look, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's got their own thoughts, everyone's got their own understandings of what they think is the best way to go forward. This is my preferred method. I really like the playoff style, but I also want to reward the consistency right throughout a season. At the back end of the season, it does get a little bit boring, which is where the win and you're in style system really shines. But I think in overall health of a league, this is the best way to go.
Take a look at our qualifying results as they are in. Your front row is going to be comprised of the two drivers that have been to victory lane so far this season. So Vadi, the winner at Daytona, and Chris Woodard, who took the checkers last week at Atlanta. And they're going to be the ones to lead us to the green flag as we take a look at the rest of the starting lineup. 25 drivers of the 29 took time. So you'll be seeing towards the tail end of this group, Jeremy Richmond, Gene Cato, Clifford Corbeau, Anthony Zirkle, and Michael Shore. But a lot of times, usually it's Darlington that leagues will use for throwback races. It's Nashville here tonight for BackFire, and it doesn't matter where the venue is. I love it when these drivers throw it back to certain NASCAR drivers. Sometimes they throw it back to family members' cars that they've run. A lot of these drivers here, their roots are deep-seated in local racing. I just love it when they bring out those custom liveries, and about 20 drivers in the field here tonight have such paint schemes on their cars, and we'll be covering them during the course of this evening. So looking forward to that, and I'm telling you what, the thing that's going to be interesting to me is I know that Nashville Superspeedway came back onto the NASCAR circuit this year. I believe we've previously called a race here on FRN at Nashville Superspeedway, but to me as a broadcaster, there are still an awful lot of unknowns about this particular racetrack and the type of racing that we're going to be seeing. I mean, we saw that 3-wide racing, 2 or 3 rows deep last week at Atlanta. That was an old track surface. Nashville Superspeedway is concrete based. We know that normally there's not nearly as much grip in concrete as there is in asphalt. So I'm going to be really interested to see just what type of racing we're in for tonight, just based on the track we're at.
Ultimately, this is actually one of the very few tracks within the iRacing service that I actually haven't turned a lap on. So, to be perfectly honest, I'm going to be a little bit at sea, but ultimately, I enjoy that. I enjoy coming to a new track. I enjoy learning, because whenever you do something like that, you are actually learning as a driver. This is a track that doesn't show up on many shortened schedules a whole lot, but when it does, from what I've heard, the racing is intense. From my understanding, it is a little bit difficult to pass. We did see stages of that last week at Atlanta. As the tires got a little bit older, the grooves, it went from 3 grooves back down to sort of 2 to 1.5, really. So it was very difficult to build and overtake towards the back end of a run. So early on, you're going to see a lot of drivers, again, my understanding of it, you're going to see a lot of drivers fighting for those positions early. They're going to be looking to really push their opponents. They're looking to make sure that they're set themselves up for that long-term race scenario. Once they settle in, it's going to be, by and large, a little bit too late. Now, I mean, ultimately, in terms of things, as a driver, I'm the kind of driver who sits around and I love to save tires. That's not the kind of strategy that's going to lead yourself to a lot of success here at Nashville.
Saw a big slide there out of Chris Woodard as he will jump to the outside of Brock Silvati, looking to take the race lead. Of course, the very familiar Rainbow Warriors look that Jeff Gordon had on his number 24 for Hendrick Motorsports. Most notably, ran that scheme in 1995, a championship year, and Woodard, to the point, is going to lead the second lap of this race. So 2 laps, 2 different leaders. Tom Bourne now moving up into the 3rd spot. And, talking about the fact that these drivers have to point their way into the playoffs last week was huge for Tom Bourne. Of course, had that DNF at Daytona, finished up inside the top 5 last week at Atlanta, jumped 20 spots in the standings, now 11th in the overall points coming into this one.
And that's important. Remember, we were just a couple moments ago talking about the importance of making sure that you're right up there in terms of the point scenarios. And ultimately, there was a lot of drivers that at Daytona, they had a horrid run. They really didn't set themselves up for success. And then on the flip side, a lot of drivers did the exact same back in Atlanta last week. Everyone was racing for the bulk of the race incredibly hard. We saw contact with the 97 machine. I believe was it Chris Woodard that come down, got a little bit loose off the top and unfortunately made contact with him. And, Silvati didn't have a great run. Ultimately, all of these guys right now have got to keep their eyes on the prize. They've got to keep their eyes on that consistency designed point standing scheme. And it's a completely different mindset. As a driver, when you're in a win and you're in style playoff system, that's your focus. You go out there, you win a race, and you're locked in. For the rest of the season, you spend focusing on what you need to do to win it in the playoff style scenario and getting the most playoff points that you possibly can. That's not the case here. You have got to make sure that you keep that car clean, you avoid the accidents in the midfield, and you give yourself an opportunity to fight for a championship at the very end.
Saw a great battle there for the 5th position between DJ Daniel and his teammate Alexander Kerfan. Now, I'm not necessarily 100% certain if DJ Daniel's car is a throwback, but it does certainly remind me of the U.S. Air Force Warthog that Darrell Wallace Jr. drove for Richard Petty Motorsports back in 2019. Wounded Warrior project on his 96 here as he's alongside now another teammate, Brock Silvati, for the 4th position. 3rd place changed hands not too long ago. Patrick McQuaid, the muffler man, going to move up into P3. Of course, the very familiar white, red, and black on his car that Kevin Harvick drove to victory lane at Atlanta Motor Speedway in that photo finish with Jeff Gordon for his first career Cup Series win. And that was, of course, an emotional one just a couple weeks off the heels of losing the great Dale Sr. at Daytona.
Yeah, that's... the other thing is, when you come to a round like this where everyone's running throwback schemes, Daniel's looking to go 3 wide. Oh, sorry, it's his teammate Kerfan that's looking to go 3 wide. After last week, I was getting some unhappy vibes out of this JKR Motorsports group. There's a lot of drivers. And when they're so closely packed on the racetrack, and when they're fighting so difficult, it's so difficult to build a lot of these runs, a lot of these overtakes. It's gonna cause issues in-house. And when you have the biggest team on the grid, by and large, you have the biggest opportunity to make contact with another car from your team. So I get the feeling that all is not 100% well over at JKR Motorsports, and they haven't come out and been as dominating as they were last season. But then again, we're only 2 races in. Maybe today's got another page to add to that story.
Yeah, we'll have to see. 3 wide for a moment back there, just outside of the top 10. That was Brock Whitehead, who was kicked up to the top side. Now he'll battle with Christopher Lawrence for 11th. Just at the lead part of this group, you've got the teammates out of Radius Racing, the 12 of Cam Caldwell, throwing it back to Steve Park. That very similar to the 1998 Pennzoil car that Park drove for DEI. And then not too far behind him was trying to hang on with his teammate in the 9th position, now under fire from Aaron Brown. That's Dakota Knoll, throwing it back to the AC Delco Chevrolet that Dale Earnhardt Jr. drove down.
Oh, there's contact! And the 49 car nearly ended up on the wall. That's Kyle Gardner. There was contact between the 49 and the 83 of Whitehead you were mentioning. Sorry, go back to talking about the paint set. See, this is it's quite difficult. A lot of you by now would have noticed the accent of mine. I'm not American, and ultimately, oval racing isn't as popular outside of America. So when Seth gets to introduce me to some older skiers, this is why I love throwback rounds as well. This is teaching me about your racing history, and it's so important to bring up the pedigree, the style, the consistency, the phenomenal attitude of drivers in years gone past, the phenomenal paint schemes, and the bits and pieces that that surround all of those as well. So please continue.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get into the sport really until maybe the early 2000s, so a lot of these schemes, I kind of had to do my research to figure out where they were at, but I know some people that, a blink of an eye, they'll look at it and say, oh, that's from that year. Dakota Knoll there in that 10 machine, as mentioned, the Dale Earnhardt Jr., now Xfinity, but then Busch Series car that he drove, and that was most notably, he drove it in the late 90s, 1998 to 1999, right now holding down the 10th position. You were talking about Kyle Gartner back there. That's a scheme that I definitely do remember. That was when Ken Schrader drove for BAM Racing in the Dodge, the number 49 with Schwann's as the sponsor. That was back in 2005.
It's phenomenal. We ultimately, for the viewers' benefit, a lot of these guys have put together information packages on all of their cars and the paint schemes, and I'm just flicking through all of that material at this point in time, and there's a lot of personal liveries and a lot of emotion that goes into these throwback cars as well. So, you know, when these drivers are out here tonight, they're not just representing themselves, and by and large, a lot of them do have sponsors, so week to week they are representing something else, but they're also representing something that's a little bit more personal to them tonight, and to me, that's what makes Throwback Week so special.
Just had a lead change moments ago. Chris Woodard got passed by, I was going to say Darrell Waltrip, but no, that's Tom Bourne. He is throwing it back to DW, however. Back to the 1981 Buick that Darrell Waltrip ran. People remember that white and green Mountain Dew machine. And Tom Bourne with G Fuel on the car, now out in front. He was a big player for the win last week at Atlanta as well, that old track surface, so no surprise to see him running good again here 1 week later at the slick track, old track surface of Nashville. I'll tell you what, they are just mixing it up back here outside of the top 15. Jeremy Richmond, Brock Whitehead, Zachary Woods in this mix. Now, Richmond is running a throwback, but it's a fictional throwback. It's not really a throwback to any particular driver, but you can definitely get throwback vibes off of the look of that car.
Oh god, yeah. And I mean, you know, that's just what it is about. I mean, it's about older style layouts on the car. It's not necessarily about, you know, the car itself actually just being a dedicated throwback to anything, you know. So look, all power to these guys. This is honestly week to week you come out and you're looking for specific things from specific cars. This week I'm having a lot of trouble identifying the drivers because it is throwback week, and it's, you know, it's a lot of fun. Look, I mean, I'm enjoying myself tonight, Seth. These are amazing cars. The amount of effort that's gone into putting on a throwback week, you don't understand. Like, it's caution's out.
Oh yes, we do have a caution. And it's Brock Whitehead in the 83. Now, I've been noticing he was really struggling here in the last couple of laps. He was up in the wall at one point over into turn 1, and on the front straightaway, he's going to bring out the first caution of the day.
That's unfortunate for him. I mean, yeah, I was watching him in that top groove as well. He'd struggled for probably 5, 6, 7 laps. He was really having issues with trying to keep the car down a groove, trying to keep it out of the wall, and eventually the car just got away from him. Like, it's difficult, and it's something when a lot of Australians come to me and they say, how can you love oval racing? What's going on there? You know, why are you enjoying it so much? It's not, by and large, the fact that it's an oval race and you're turning left all the time. It's the wall is constantly in close proximity. The cars around you are constantly in close proximity. And it only takes... Oval racing improves you as a driver because you have to improve your level of smoothness. If you overdrive these cars at any point in time, the issues aren't going to be felt immediately. It's 5, it's 10, it's 15 laps down the track at some venues, you know, where you've overdriven the car a little bit, and all of a sudden all the other cars around you have a little bit more grip than you do, and it just keeps extending itself. And from Brock Whitehead's perspective, I think he's over-inputting the car. I think he's trying to force the car right now to do things that car just does not want to do.
It stops for just about everybody in the field here. A couple of drivers staying out, maybe to try and get a lap led here under caution as Tom Bourne led them down pit road, but it's going to be Chris Woodard winning the battle off of pit lane over Tom Bourne, Patrick McQuaid, and DJ Daniel. 18 green flag laps we ran there, so really with the way that we've been seeing some drivers struggling here, even towards the closing stages of this run, not much of a surprise to see that everybody wanted to come down pit road, wanted to get as much optimal grip as possible with those fresh Goodyears.
Just having a look at the tyre fall-off as well, I was just having a look at Tom Bourne's race laps. So we started out, obviously, first lap's always going to be a slightly slow lap because you're still getting the car up to speed. Second lap, 29.722. Third lap, 29.764, so he's made a little bit of a mistake, a little bit of error, or he's trying to get by somebody. Then he got down to 29.715, was his fastest lap of that run. So it was on that fourth lap of the run where he got. So the tyres held their grip quite well. He got some grip. He got access to the groove that he really wanted to run on lap 4 of that run. This time he's going to be starting off of the outside of the front row, so he'll get access to that. I'm interested to see if his fastest lap time comes down a little bit now. But then the lap times obviously start to settle. So within that 17 lap run, the caution come out on lap 18. He's dropped 1.2 seconds in terms of peak lap time. So that's in 18 laps. That's not a lot. So, that's actually not a long distance is what I was trying to say. So these tire fall off tonight is going to be huge for these guys. And if you have a look at the shape of the track, quite flat. It's not, super high banking. The corners, you've got to be on the brakes. You've got to ease the car in there. It definitely fits that bill for a high track wear. And then you add cement into the mix as well, so it's definitely going to be a struggle for a lot of the drivers, and I do expect to be seeing a lot of these drivers in the fan struggling with the rear getting out from underneath them, car not turning at some stage tonight. So I expect we're going to see a lot of cautions here tonight because the difficulty level definitely is there.
Only 14 degrees of banking for these drivers to work with here at the Nashville Super Speedway. We saw Patrick Jenks lead that lap, come to pit road, immediately got the 1 green signal, and we're back underway with Chris Woodard leading us to the start-finish line. Just a little bit of an interesting thing there on Patrick Jenks. He's a entry out of JKR Motorsports here tonight. Going to be running some select races during the course of the season. Most of the time, though, when he's not in the car, he's up there on the spotter stand calling the shots for Brock Silvati. So pretty cool to see him behind the driver's wheel here this evening as they're going to get themselves all single filed for the most part here inside the top 10. Best battle's going to be just inside that 10th position. That's where they're all wadded up with Dakota No, Cam Caldwell, Aaron Brown, and others.
Yeah, again, it's not easy. We were talking about the difficulty of getting these cars. Somebody's right up there towards the top of this track, up in the background as well. So it is not an easy track to get these cars woed up, get them banked
someone
in.
just shot left. I think that might have been Bilter in the 3. Joshua Bilter. That car just snapped to the left towards the inside.
It's going on.
Track, and he's
What's going on?
collecting up Stefnovsky. Caution to
Yeah.
the flag. I don't know what happened midway down the back straightaway, but obviously could not get the car slowed down quickly enough before getting to the entrance of turn 3.
He
Joshua
made
Belter
contact,
in
I
that
think
very-
it was with Kyle Gartner. I was just looking back at it. He spent the whole back straightaway trying to get the car woed up. The thing is, in that sort of a situation, the guy, it was actually Kyle Gartner that he got into on the outside. Kyle Gartner come down, not even a half a lane. He went up, not even a half a lane, and that's where they make contact. So both drivers making errors there a little bit. Probably fighting the cars. Bilder's trying to fight the car. He's had to correct a little bit, slides up a little bit. Gartner's trying to correct the car a little bit, comes down a little bit, just gets that little bit of a shot. And then Bilder spends the whole of the back straight on the grass, and it's very, very bumpy. The speed's quite high. He's trying to pull the car up. He's trying to control the car all at the same time, and he just slides back up onto the racing surface. There's nothing that guy can do. There's nothing anyone can do. Everyone's just trying to dodge that as best as they possibly can.
Yeah, that grass is going to do nothing to help slow a race car down.
And it's
for
bumpy.
Sure.
The car is literally just bouncing the whole time. To be perfectly honest, there is nothing Kyle could have done. He tried to keep the car off the inside barrier. He tried to keep the car from going back out. There is nothing that guy can do.
Another camera angle here off of turn 2. Joshua Billiter was looking for a great performance here tonight. Still got a faster pair, which he has used, so his lifeline is gone 25 laps into this race. He was,
Ooh, I like
of
that.
course, throwing it back to the Intimidator Dale Sr.'s 1995 Silver Select, and the driver he caught up in that incident with him was the 22 of Mike Sibanovsky, who was throwing it back to Joey Logano's 2009 Home Depot Toyota out of Joe Gibbs Racing. I'd have to double check, but I believe that was the year that Joey Logano got his first career win. So obviously Sibanovsky was hoping that that kind of mojo would rub off here tonight as he's looking for his first win in BackFire.
Statman Seth Cole at it again. Man, you got one right the other night, and you've been on top of your game lately. You've been putting the hours into these statistics, Seth.
That one the other night scared me, so I don't.
I mean, it scared both of us, to be perfectly honest. It wasn't just you. Man, how can you call the leading? So for those guys who aren't with us, we were calling Dark Horse Racing Series. I can't say the I word in the middle there because they have been informed they're not allowed to use that in their promotional materials. So Seth called perfectly the number of laps led by the winner before the start of the race. He looked at the stats, he went, well, the last 2 times I've been here, somebody led 59 laps and won the race, somebody else led 57 laps and won the race. I'm going to say 58. Bang on. Got it. Absolutely bang. 58 laps was the winning number. It was freaky.
Yeah, it was. I sat there and looked at the stat sheet, just kind of looking back, expecting it to change, but it never did, so. Stranger things happen at sea, but I'm hanging up my crystal ball now. I don't, the commentator's curse is still alive and well, so I want to make sure that I don't end up invoking that on a driver.
And my apologies to Tom Vaughan as well. I called him Bronson Stafford right before the start of the race. He wasn't 100% happy with me for that one, but I'm apparently not allowed to show my support for him because if I do, he's going to fail in a big way. So I'll say he's failing massive tonight, and hopefully he wins.
Okay, don't understand why he's running in second. This is a horrible place for him to be right now. Tom Ford trying to run down Christopher Woodard for the race lead. Going to be battle for the 3rd position here. TJ Daniel and Patrick McQuaid. Daniel on the outside, which I think might start to become the preferred line the longer this race goes on, just based on the fact that with it being a concrete track, that right front's going to want to slide, and with it sliding up a couple of grooves off the bottom, you've got a better chance of turning that car on exit, I would think, using the top.
Look, I mean, it's rubber laid down, right? I mean, we've talked about it on previous streams, but it's probably a really good refresher course for those of you who have not done NASCAR 101 as of yet. But that's okay. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm paid for. Look, to be perfectly honest, what happens and what causes that sliding is basically the tires all have a load limit that they can put down onto the track. When they exceed that load limit, they no longer can make perfect grip, and they'll lose a limit. There's an accident in the background. I heard a lot of sliding.
And it might have been around this area. The 81 of Jay Gimbel appears to be drifting back a bit. I think he might have been the one in trouble. Maybe the 49 of Gartner up ahead of him as well, as he's running awfully high on the racetrack.
It was the 81. I just went back and watched it. Yeah, there was a big shout out on the team's radio as well that somebody said phenomenal save, by the way. So great job by him.
He will slot back to around the 19th position, but still keeps it pointed in the correct direction. There's the very familiar red number 8 of Ryan Sizemore. Of course, all NASCAR fans probably recognize this, throwing it back to Dale Earnhardt Jr., more specifically 2007 for the Dale Earnhardt Jr. machine. And somebody just up ahead of him ran into an issue there off of 4. Might have been Michael Fleming, or make that Matthew Fleming in the 4 machine, because they started really stacking up there and fanning out as if someone was in trouble. Boy, this is the danger spot, it seems, in the field right now.
Fleming, it was actually the car just in front of him, which I'm just having a look. It's got a 3 on its roof. I couldn't see it. It was the blue and yellow car. It's the 33, actually. So it's Trey Whitehead. Yeah, that was really struggling. So, look, I mean, ultimately right now it's settling time. Let's get back to NASCAR 101 and physics. NASCAR meets physics 101, right? So each car. Oh my God, Gardner just about got in the rear end. You saw that as well?
Yes, indeed, Mike.
Oh.
Goodness. I don't know if he sent it into the corner or if he just didn't have brakes.
I think he just missed his braking zone. I think he just, completely and utterly blew right by where he meant to start wallowing that car up. So anyway, NASCAR 101, Physics 101, right? Tires, they have a set amount of grip, a set amount of load, a set amount of G-forces that they can handle, okay? So when you exceed that, the tire no longer performs, right? Which is what NASCAR drivers refer to as tightness. The car's too tight. The feeling on the steering wheel is really, really tight. You're fighting the car to try and get it to come down to the racetrack. Loose is the opposite. The car wants to come down the racetrack. The rear wants to come around on you. But, yeah, tight is completely opposite. It's where the tires are basically overloaded. So what happens then is the tire contact patch on the road starts to slide, right? Instead of turning, it goes in the opposite direction. It's just... car has momentum, circular momentum. It wants to keep going in a straight direction. It doesn't want to accelerate in an inward, a turning in sort of motion. So the tire slides across the track surface. It lays a little bit extra rubber down. Rubber on rubber is a better contact, better grip style surface, and that's why the cars start to do better lap times as the rubber gets laid down.
Not sure what happened with Patrick Jenks. You just saw him go a second lap down. He was on pit lane about 6 laps ago for definitely looked like an unscheduled pit stop, and so now he is -2 to the race leaders back in the 28th position.
He is right in the lead pack, though.
Yeah, it looked like for a brief moment there when the leaders were reeling him in, like that car just wasn't handling to his liking as, man, they are still mixing it up back here, double wide around the 12th to 15th position, and I'm seeing a lot of slipping and sliding here as well. It doesn't take much to make contact here if you slide up a groove and a half and that driver to your inside or outside doesn't know that you're there.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly like you mentioned it. It's difficult. These guys are, first and foremost, just keeping the car on the groove is tough at some circuits. Most circuits it's actually pretty easy. The car will pretty much behave most of the time, right? It does exactly what you kind of tell it to do. Right here, there's a couple of factors that contribute to that. Concrete, big factor. Concrete is a low grip surface. It doesn't grip quite as well as asphalt, so less sort of load that those tires can accept before they start to no longer do what you tell them to do. Alternatively, track temperature quite hot right now. I can't tell you what it is in Fahrenheit. What I can tell you is it's 47 degrees Celsius. It's going to be about 120, above 120 Fahrenheit from what I understand. So quite hot, which is, again, asphalt reflects the heat quite badly. It doesn't really like soaking the heat in. So that's a big problem for the drivers right now. And ultimately, the tires are starting to wear. We've pit recently. We've had a couple cautions. Tires have been swapped. So drivers are on offset strategies, and it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Watching the battle for the 8th position, Christopher Lawrence made his way around Cam Caldwell not too long ago, and Trey Whitehead followed him. Now Whitehead looking to move up another position to 8th place. I'll tell you what, the Intimidator Dale Sr. has gotten a lot of love here tonight with a lot of these throwbacks, and I mean, why not throw it back to a 7-time Winston Cup champion? Trey Whitehead in that 33, throwing it all the way back to Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s 1979 Monte Carlo, and remember there was a clip out on YouTube, I think it was at Talladega Super Speedway, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. actually got to get in his father's machine, that 1979 Chevrolet, and take it for a couple of laps around that super speedway.
Dale Earnhardt is one of those figures. Like this is one of the things, right? Even I know about Dale Earnhardt, right? I mean, he was a loved figure prior to his unfortunate death, and it was, his unfortunate passing at the end of the day, it created a lot of learnable, teachable moments within NASCAR, and the sport as a whole is better for it. He was such a lovable character. He was so willing to engage with the fans. His personality, he understood the fact that you cannot go racing without the support of a loyal fan base, without the support of sponsors. And a lot of that comes from being supporting towards your fan base and giving them the time of day. And that's why he was such a big personality. And when a personality like that is unfortunately taken from us too soon, especially in a racing accident, whilst the guy was still out there, still performing, it leaves a big hole.
Sorry to cut you off, but Trey Whitehead off of TJ Roberts. Nose first into the wall off of turn 4. Look out, oncoming traffic. Caution is out for the 3rd time.
I heard Zach Woods call that one out as well. So he has been around a lot of the action tonight, is Zach Woods. So ultimately, I'm still seeing a clean race car off of him as well. So look, he's done a phenomenal job to keep that thing alive. But it has been chaos tonight. Well, I said it was difficult. I said it wasn't easy. Well, these drivers are just continuing to prove it.
And overcorrecting there after the initial contact with PJ Roberts. And man, I believe that was Ron Gartner that was able to just barely get that thing turned down to the left to avoid running into the back of Trey Whitehand's Chevrolet. So fortunately, we got away with really just a single car incident, but that was a lot of damage, especially around the left front of the 33. That might have faster pair written all over it. We do have quite a number of drivers in the first 3 incidents that have had to use their faster pair. Looks like the 22 of Mike Sibanovsky, the 83 of Brock Whitehead, they've already used a faster pair. And I actually just found out as well, looking at our grid, that Joshua Billiter, who we saw have that spin, that near spin down to the infield grass in the back straightaway, came back up the track in turn 3 and brought out, I believe it was the second caution. He's taken that machine to the garage area, so tough break for him as
Actually, update on that set. That's actually a connection issue. So Billiter's unfortunately disconnected due to internet failures or packet loss or something's going on with his internet. So that one is not a move back to the garage area. That one has been a unfortunate loss of connection to the server. So that is disappointing, especially because he was, it wasn't an easy night so far, but he was, hanging with it, trying to do what he could. I just went back and watched the Trey Whitehead incident just again. Obviously, he's struggling with the car, right? Everyone's struggling with the car. But that's not what causes this issue. What causes this incident is the car directly ahead of him right before that incident, which I believe was the number 9 of Christopher Lawrence. He just gets checked up just ever so slightly. It creates what we refer to as a concertina effect, which is when the car ahead, and everyone who's ever driven in street traffic would know this, the car ahead makes a change, makes an alteration. That means that you have to react if you're the next driver in the queue. So you make a reaction. Then the car behind you makes an even stronger reaction because they have to react to your reaction. What this requires from all of our drivers, and this is a really important aspect that I don't think iRacing gets quite right in terms of driver education standpoint, you can't watch the car directly ahead of you. You need to be looking a little bit further up the track and pick up the driver directly ahead of you in your peripheral vision. Couple reasons for that. The faster you run, if the car's right ahead of you and he makes a mistake, there's nothing you can do about that. You're too close to that guy. Generally at those speeds, you're not going to have the chance to react to that guy. There's absolutely nothing you can do about that. So you don't need to be focusing on that. What you want to be doing is focusing further down the track, because you need to react to something further down the track early enough that you can make the adjustment to miss something that's happening further down the track. If you're focusing right in front of your right fender, you cannot react. You are hitting whatever it is that's right in front of you. That's always going to happen. Number 2, it means that you're looking through the corner. It means that you're driving as smoother. You're planning your corner exit. When you get into the corner entry, you should already be trying to look for your corner exit. You should be looking through the corner, trying to plan for where you're driving off of the corner so that you're nice and smooth. You're already making the correct adjustments, and you're looking where you're trying to position the car. Generally means it's easier to drive the car at that section of the track. So what's actually happened in this case, Lawrence has made a mistake. Trey Whitehead has followed him in. He's made an adjustment, and the car just behind Trey Whitehead, it just didn't pick up who it was, has unfortunately not adjusted that quick enough, and that's what's turned Whitehead. And Whitehead spends the whole corner trying to save it. It's not unfortunate, but that's a racing incident in those sorts of scenarios.
Definitely is. Now, some good news that Joshua Billiter has gotten back into the server and has returned back to the racetrack. He's currently scored 5 laps down, and that caution gives Patrick Jenks one of his 2 laps back, so he will now be -1 to the race leaders in the 27th position with 26 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green. Before we do, shouting out another throwback here, Zachary Woods. You talked about him being around the vicinity of that latest incident, but not involved in it, throwing it back to yet another driver's Xfinity Series card. That would be Mark Martin's number 60, back when he drove the Winn-Dixie Ford, I believe it was a Ford Thunderbird at the time. And that would have been most notably in the year 1998. And right now has that Toyota out of Spin Move Motorsports up here currently in the 14th position. We'll be rolling off on the outside of row 7 behind race leader Christopher Woodard.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tom Bourne's run a phenomenal race right now, and that's at the end of the day, what Tom Bourne's actually doing on these restarts is he's not going hard straight away. You got to remember, these two guys are teammates. They're communicating. They're still racing each other incredibly hard, and they want to be able to do that. They don't want to just hand it over. But at the same time, they're planning their runs. They're making sure they're looking after their teammates, and Tom Bourne's goal is to look after his tires such that when Woodard finally wears his up by going just that little bit too hard, one of their team is going to win this race.
Well, he wants to look after his tires. He might want to also look after the left side of his machine, because I think he and Patrick McQuaid made a little bit of contact, leaning on each other there in the first couple of corners. Bourne's going to get away with second, and that sticks McQuaid up to the top side. DJ Daniel looking to advance. And keep an eye on that 95 of Aaron Brown. I've been watching him. He started this race from the 15th position, and yes, he's picked up some spots with these cautions on pit road, but he's picked up a lot of spots on the racetrack himself as well. That car is fast, and he is working his way up towards the front. Remember, Aaron Brown finished runner-up to his teammate Silvati at Daytona, so he's been close to tasting victory. He wants to do it today.
And you got to remember as well that Aaron Brown and Woodard had a moment last week where Woodard got to the top side at Atlanta, got the car a little bit loose on the exit of 1 and 2, and unfortunately just come down a little bit. It was another one of those racing incidents. The guys apologized to each other, they brushed it off, they moved on. So Brown should necessarily be a little bit further ahead than where he is potentially in the point standings right now. So things just haven't gone all of his way. His goal tonight will be go for a consistent finish. And if you have a look at the way that he's been picking these guys off, he's been patient. He's been steady. Yeah, he's been quick, and yeah, he's had a strong car, but he's made sure that he's always there should somebody else make a mistake, and that's when he's picking these moves off. He's not forcing anything to happen, and right now I think that is the perfect approach for anyone in this field to have, because a lot of drivers are overdriving their car. I'm not saying massively. These guys aren't idiots. These guys are very smart drivers as well. It's just little bits, and it's so easy at the speeds that these guys are doing to make half a mistake becomes a full mistake becomes 2, 3, 4 mistakes. Just ask me from a truck race I did the other night at Watkins Glen. Leads onto things. You go a little bit on tilt. So, and that's how Aaron Brown's picking a lot of these guys off.
Tom Bourne drove it really high off of 4, trying to get the run on the straightaway. Couldn't quite get to the right rear quarter panel of Woodard. Tried the inside through 1 and 2. The 24 going to hold off the advances for the moment and keep the top position. Yeah, Aaron Brown, that bad luck he had last week at Atlanta, dropped him 16 spots in the standings to 18th points. But the season is still young, so those positions that you lose with the points as close as they are last week, you can easily gain them back with a good run this week.
And that's just it. I mean, the competition, it's so close, the standings, there's nothing in it at this stage, and we're only 2 races deep into the season. Ultimately, you got to remember, 1 bad race doesn't throw the season away. 2, 3 races, yeah, that's going to throw the season away. So the most important things, and Aaron Brown is probably the most important guy to keep an eye on right now. Yeah, he's had that bad week, but he's brushed it off. He's set himself back up, and he's focusing on success. He's not focusing on what's happened before. He's not overdriving the car, trying to achieve something that's happened before. And look, ultimately, if I can say all of these things to myself from earlier on this week, I've driven the car like an absolute ass because I have been focused on stuff that's happened in the past as well. It's so important for a driver to come out and focus on resetting, focusing on the next race, not what's come before.
Here is 9th place. That is TJ Roberts making his way around Christopher Lawrence. TJ Roberts out of Get You Some Motorsports, and he's another guy that's been slowly, methodically working his way up towards the top 5, having a decent outing here. And now it's going to be Matthew Fleming that will try and take advantage of Christopher Lawrence for a spot inside of the top 10. Mike makes some contact there. That was awfully close off of turn 4, but they keep it together for the time being. Noticing Brock Silvati back here, our pole sitter, currently running in the 13th position. And, I made the point about the error that I had, the statement I made last week at Atlanta about the win in your in system I thought that they had here in BackFire. The thing that I love that they don't have that is because if you're Brock Silvati, if you're Christopher Woodard, you can kind of sit back and ride. You would know that you're already locked into the playoffs. So the fact that it is not a win-you're-in situation doesn't matter if you've got 1 win, doesn't matter if you've got 5 wins. You got to go out each week. You got to perform to make sure you stay up there points-wise.
Oh, just keeping my eyes on this pack that Brock Silvati's in right now. Remember what I said about making sure that you're grabbing those consistent finishes? Kyle Gardner's struggling. He is not having the night that he was really after. This guy was down on the apron, trying to get back up on the racetrack, trying to provide enough space for all the cars around him. It just makes a little bit of a mistake. You know, the guy's doing the absolute best that he can. Patrick Jenks is actually back down on pit road. What? He's clearly struggling. Yeah, this is really bad for Joshua Billiter because it means that he's no longer available for that lucky dog, right? Remember, he was 1 lap down was Patrick Jenks. So he would cycle back through in terms of the pit stop strategy, and he would be, be available to get his lap back. But if he's going to continue to drop laps like this, that means that Josh Billiter's not going to have that opportunity.
The issue as well, I don't know what happened to the 81 of Jay Gimbel, but he was actually on pit lane about 7 laps ago for what I can only assume was an unscheduled pit stop, and he's now fallen 3 laps down. So that's about 6 laps between Josh Billiter and a possibility of getting a lucky dog. And I don't know, I mean, we still aren't even halfway through this race, but
there's
having only scored 3 cautions up to this point, I don't really think that he's going to have a shot of being able to get a lucky dog, let alone 5, to get back in the lead lap.
What Josh Billiter really needs to happen right about now is he needs to run really slow, really patient, really careful. Keep that car alive. If he's going to get back on the lead lap, what he wants to happen is a full green flag cycle of pit stops, except him, happens out on the racetrack, and a caution immediately comes out. That's going to be 2 laps back, effectively, then potentially another one from a lucky dog style scenario, right? So that gets him 3 laps back. Then he wants a couple cautions back to back, get himself back on the lead lap. Ultimately, at the end of the day, when you're in that 3 car and you are trapped in the position that you're doing, all you can do is put your car in the right positions, hope that things go your way. At the end of the day, if they don't, there's nothing you could have done about it anyway.
Trying to get a look at the right side of Cam Caldwell. He's up the track again there in 1 and 2. I think he might have gotten the wall off the second corner the previous lap. Saw a lot of drivers scattering on the back straightaway, and he was very quickly losing positions, losing momentum. So obviously the 12 car, not necessarily handling wise where Cam Caldwell would like it to be, as he'll drop back to the 18th position, now in a bit of a safe spot and get himself back into a rhythm. But I think I gotta wonder here too. I mean, you go up there into the wall, you slide the tires. We always talk about that you heat up those tires and then you have to spend a couple of laps cooling them down. With it being a concrete surface, wouldn't you have to spend a little more extra time getting those tires cooled down?
Oh, 100%, yeah. I mean, we're already talking about how difficult it is just to, A, get the cars turned, B, drive the cars and see how inconsistent they are at the moment just because of the track surface as well. Yeah, so, look, I mean, earlier on in the race, it would have been a little bit more... caution's out again.
I believe that's Ryan Sizemore in the 8 on the front straightaway in the grass. Caution's going to fly, but with where he's positioned, we may have been lucky, and this might have been... maybe a solo incident,
is that crabbing?
Maybe if anything, a 2-car incident.
Yeah, his car's crabbing. I'm just having a look at it. His front right is all kinds of messed up. And it's jutting out. It's not making proper contact. So that's a big hit at some point. Is it the outside wall? Surely it's got to be the outside. Yeah, it's the outside wall. Gets real loose off of the corner. Just big impact in that front right. Dodges everyone. Man, the whole field is lucky to get by on that one.
This is certainly not the start to the season that Ryan Sizemore has been looking for. This is going to bring out this 4th caution of the day that we take a look at. I mean, so far this season, a 29th place finish last week at Atlanta, a 30th place finish at Daytona, and involved here in this incident was running well, though, was I believe up around the top 15, was in that group from about 11th back to 16th place. So fortunate for him, he's going to have to come down pit road, get that damage repaired. Don't know if, as you alluded to, the fact it looks like the suspension might be in trouble in that right front, if that would have fast repair written on it or not. But nonetheless, it's going to put him back in the field here for this upcoming restart.
Yeah, look, I mean, at the end of the day, the guy's got to do, what the guy's got to do. I mean, he's clearly making mistakes. the end of the day, remember what I was talking about. This circuit is difficult. This is right up there. These drivers right now are sweating. They are fighting these cars. Remember this aero package. The cars do not like running in that draft. You know, the guys, it's so difficult. The cars don't get the air to the spoilers, to the aero devices in the best possible way. So as soon as you're running in traffic, the car's not handling the way that you want it to be handling. That, remember what I said earlier, you make a mistake, you wear a little bit of those tires out, that compounds, because the next corner you're going to overdrive that, the tires are still hot, everything's still hot, the car's not handling the same, so you drive it a little bit harder in there, you're working the wheel more, and it just keeps building and building and building. So what you've got to do is you've got to be super smooth. You have to be buttery smooth. What's the smoothest, creamiest, you know, what's the easiest you've ever driven anything, Seth? What would be the substance that, if I was to say smoothest, creamiest is a milkshake? A really creamy strawberry milkshake?
Make it vanilla. I'm not making a
Make it
not much of a
vanilla?
strawberry fan. but
Okay,
make it
you have to drive this car like your favorite vanilla milkshake. You have to make sure that you're coming off the corners in that exact perfect throttle position, that you aren't going to curdle that milk. You've got to make sure that you are looking after the vanilla flavoring ingredients that are going into this milkshake. And if you want to be there at the end and get that scoop of ice cream added into it at the checkered flag, well, you've got to make sure that you've built the milkshake all the way from the ground up.
And my apologies to everybody that's already yelling at me in the comments for not liking strawberry milkshakes, but I digress.
But this actually is a really good opportunity. I mean, we've got series admin in the comments as well, which is Chris Hobka. Chris Hobka's a phenomenal guy. Can't be here tonight, unfortunately. But it's good to see him along supporting the stream. And he mentioned it. This is, brought to you by Hobka Real Estate as well. So big shout out to him. And for all of our viewers, if you're out there and you're watching this and you're enjoying it, please, please, please do what Chris Hobka's mentioned in the chat. Can you please jump along and like the page at Erica Hubka Realtor? That would be a huge support. And, like I said, Chris Hubka puts this series on. He does a lot of work, and he also sponsors the series as well. So there's money tied up in this to make sure that we can all go racing, we can all enjoy. Ultimately, I think this has been one of the best seasons that I've seen out of a lot of these drivers as well. The racing's been phenomenal thus far this season.
Absolutely, and great to have Hubka along watching this broadcast here tonight. Obviously, some life things getting in the way of him not being able to take the green flag tonight, but want to give the shout out to the throwback he would have run should he have taken the green flag here at Nashville Super Speedway. He was going to be throwing that number 5 back to Terry Labonte's Tiger Stripes from 2003, the Kellogg's Chevrolet that Labonte drove for Hendrick Motorsports. So it would have been really cool to see him out there, but obviously we're thinking of you, Chris, and thanks for tuning in to the broadcast here tonight. We are 10 laps away from halfway, working our 4th caution. This might be the most interesting restart so far, though, Scott, with the fact that every other caution we've had, the leaders have come down pit road, taking on fresh tires. They didn't come down pit road this time. They're going to be out there on about, 16, 18 green flag lap tires. It's going to be a different sensation for them going into turn 1 than it has been on the previous restarts.
In terms of restarts, yes, but you got to remember these guys have obviously been out there on those tires. They know what those tires feel like at this point, but the tires have cooled off now. They're going to offer a little bit more grip, and whoever goes in there and understands their car the best is going to come away really strong. This is a really good opportunity for Tom Bourne. Looking at DJ Daniels, Aaron Brown's got a really good opportunity here as well. So there's a whole bunch of drivers right now that have got a phenomenal opportunity. Who's going to be able to take it? I can't answer that question.
Green flag set to come back out. Jay Gimbel, by the way, got the lucky dog under the last caution, now -2 in the 26th position, as that inside line appeared to not really get going.
I actually think that Chris Woodard jumped the start a little bit. Well, I mean, he's got control of the field, so he can't really jump, but his initial launch was good. Then he just spins tires the whole way down the front stretch. That car was moving left, right, did not want to settle down under acceleration. I think we're about to see him suffering as a result of that.
Here around the 7th spots where they're all wadded up as a result of some drivers going, some drivers not. Trey Whitehead in the 33, Alexander Kerfan. Surprised I haven't really, we haven't talked a whole lot about Kerfan here tonight, aside from the 3-wide move he was attempting in the early stages of this race, but he's up here inside of the top 10, holding down 8th place. He drifts up the track, as does TJ Roberts in 9th, and Jeremy Richmond slowly, methodically continues to chip away different cars in front of him. He's now cracked the top 10. We're starting to see those JKR Motorsports cars working their way with forward progress the closer we get to the second half of this race.
So I'm just keeping an eye on a couple things here. So the leaders right now, what is the reason to not come down pit road? We talked about the 20 lap sort of differential since these guys last pit early on. Oh, what? Oh, he saved it! He just barely missed the wall. There's already a little bit of a bump on the front right corner of that car, a little bit of a crinkle there, but he's managed to save it. So lap times, it's about a second a lap, but you can't really show that traffic. He's in the fence again.
Man,
he's struggling.
That was a hard lick. And almost
ultimately,
gets into the back of Whitehead.
Ultimately, what the reason that we're seeing this differential in pit strategy right now is track position is hugely important. We're talking about how difficult it is to pass. What's the other major concrete-based circuit that we get in NASCAR that everyone knows about? It's the Monster Mile. It's Dover. You know, it's difficult. It's so difficult to get a pass done at Dover. These guys are aware of that. Right now, track position, that's what they said is far more important. They do not want to get caught up in the mess that is happening at the back of the field as well. It's so difficult to get overtakes done, guys are making mistakes, you know, it's all of that.
Bourne's going to do an overtake on Christopher Woodard. He's going to move back to the point, second time that the 54 has been out in front today, and you talk about the ability to overtake. Just moments before, you were mentioning about the issue that Zachary Woods was having. We saw Ryan Sizemore throw a big slide job on the 61 of Anthony Zirkle, so that might be something to watch for in the closing stages of this race too, with drivers trying to pick up positions late.
Yeah, they're trying to get it down there, they're trying to get the entry done. I'm keeping my eyes on, there's a few guys here that are really struggling at this point in time. Guy that's your leader that's come down pit road and taken tires at this point, it's Cam Caldwell. He's doing a phenomenal job trying to get through the field. He's up to P6, I think. Yeah, he's just grabbed. He's just gotten by Aaron Brown, so he's just taken P6 away from Aaron Brown. He's coming for these leaders. The next car that has taken tires isn't even inside the top 10 yet. I think it was Sizemore that you were talking about. Yeah, he's on fresh tires. So ultimately, a lot of the guys that came that time by are going to be better on fuel. Brock Salvati's another one. He's running back in 20th. He's made no benefit out of these fresh tires at the moment. So it's struggle city out there right now.
Cam Caldwell looking at the lap times right now of his fresh tires opposed to the drivers around him. It's anywhere from 0.4 to half a second. You can see when he gets the inside of another race car, it's no contest. He just blows by them. Got by Trey Whitehead up to 4th. DJ Daniel, maybe the 24, depending on whether they go double wide or not. Nope, it's DJ Daniel next to the hit list. Why not 2 for the price of 1 through 1 and 2?
Look, I'm perfectly honest. I think that it was not the correct strategy to not come down, not grab tires there. And for these guys that are in multi-pack teams, look, you've got just about the entirety of the JKL Motorsports guys opting to not come down. I would have. You've got Brock Salvati that did come down, did grab tires, and he hasn't really made somewhere. I would have really liked to have seen, I think, DJ Daniels go in a different direction, or Aaron Brown. One of those two guys needed to come down and cover off everyone else by taking tires.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you know, we ran about, 64, 65 laps, I think, when that 4th caution came out. We've only had 4 so far. So on average, we've had a caution come out about every 15 laps. So I'm definitely with you. I mean, there's no guarantee for these drivers that another yellow flag's going to come out, and in that span of time, just how much space is Cam Caldwell going to put between himself and the rest of the field? Also interesting.
Get neutralized.
You got 2 entries from Radius Racing in the field. One driver decided to go with the 4-tire strategy. The other driver did not. Dakota Knoll, who's currently going to battle with Chris Woodard for the 4th position.
I mean, what's the, you got to look at the cost-benefit analysis. Like, for a lot of these guys up the front, there was a huge cost. The cost was they were going to be losing potentially large chunks of track position. Were they willing to risk it? Guys like Tom Bourne and Chris Woodard, these guys have led from the front the whole time by. They want to maintain that track position. They know they've got better cars, they're better on their tires, they're really running a phenomenal race out in front. Cam Caldwell had the option to take a risk, but when you've got that many cars, like the JKR Motorsports guys, I just think at least one of the cars has got to be on an alternative strategy, because if you're sacrificing one car and it doesn't go their way, the entire team still doesn't lose anything, and that car can be your alternative car for the rest of the race. You give yourself such, by being in a huge team like that and working together like a huge team, you really bully everyone else around, and you force weird mental games, weird psychology games on a lot of these other teams just by having one car do something funny.
Those fresh tires of Ryan Sizemore now going to work on Aaron Brown. Further back, saw Noah Owens starting to make some forward progress. Noah Owens has had a pretty quiet day up to this point, running the Dale Earnhardt Jr. throwback from 2015. The Nationwide Stars and Stripes is what Junior ran in that paint scheme. Blues Diecast, of course, the sponsor for Noah Owens in that 88 machine, as he now battles with Christopher Lawrence for P13. Behind them, Gene Cato, nice comeback run so far for Gene Cato in that too. Was, of course, involved in an earlier caution, had to take on the faster pair, but currently holding down the 16th position. Gene Cato throwing it back to Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s 1986 car, back when he ran the Wrangler car.
I've just got the biggest nerd grin on right now, just sitting here listening to you talk about all this stuff, because like I said, I enjoy it, right? You're talking about something that's... I love talking to people who have a passion, and a lot of the time those people, they'll meet regular people on the street, and the people are just like, you know, I don't understand, I don't enjoy this, so I'm just not going to talk back to you. But you just, the light that goes on in people's eyes when you sit there and you give them the time of day, like, that's what I'm there for. I enjoy people's reactions. That's why I'm in commentary, because I love giving people this fun feeling, this fuzzy feeling when we talk about them on screen. That's what I love about it. Yeah, so, I mean, you could keep banging on about these paint schemes all night, Seth. When the broadcast is done, I expect a full download of every paint scheme done in the race, because I know that you're going to love that. So, anyway, keeping my eyes on Ryan Sizemore. Interesting to note, the difference between Ryan Sizemore and Cam Caldwell will continue to grow the longer this racing goes on.
Got an issue. Sorry, no caution, but something happened back here around Christopher Lawrence and the lap machine of Patrick Jenks.
Oh, he's still slow.
Know exactly if the 9 and the 94 made contact. I saw another driver start really slowing as well. I think it was Kerfan and the 99.
Oh, it's Kerfan. Kerfan caused that one. It was nothing to do with the 94. So Kerfan goes really deep on the entry to 3 and 4, makes contact with the rear quarter panel of the 9 of Christopher Lawrence, and both of them catch the outside wall. So it's nothing to do with the lap machine of Jenks.
See how that right front damage there around the right front headlight, and he's come to pit lane, so whatever that was, it was definitely detrimental enough that he feels he cannot keep that thing running out there on the racetrack.
He lost engine damage because it was a big shot from, first of all, from Kerfan. The big shot was into Lawrence's rear corner, so Lawrence won't be suffering too bad from that, but it was a big shot, and the car slapped the ground as well. Alternatively, he's looking for a green flag strategy, and this sort of just forces him onto an alternative. This is the alternative strategies I was talking about, right? Is the 99 car one of those JKR guys? He's not having a great night. Let's get him out of traffic. The 22, whoever's in 22nd, somebody's come to pit lane as well. Yeah, okay, so this is a scheduled stop. This is planned from the 99. It's just been, the trigger's been pulled a little bit earlier because of what's just happened.
Another driver on pit road is going to be Zachary Woods in the 60. Remember, he got up into the wall a couple of times just after we went green for that restart.
Yes, everyone's settled themselves down now, but remember, this race has had so many cautions, everyone's not comfortable yet. Things are getting better. People are understanding their cars a little bit more. They get, in my mind, early on in the stint, I think is the hardest part to drive one of these cars, because you're trying to push, you're really trying to make the most of that fresh rubber, and you're still trying to look after them all at the same time. It's when you can make the most mistakes. Once the rubber settles down a little bit, the rubber gets a little bit more stable, and the differential in terms of grip becomes not as big, and the tires, they kind of like sitting there, and that sort of, once they get that sheen off of them, it's like 5-10% in, they start to settle down, and it's much, much easier. We're in that phase of the race right now, which is what a lot of these guys are risking. They're saying, okay, everyone's settled down, everyone's spread out a bit more. I think we've got an opportunity for a green flag pit stop to get that. There was a huge amount of smoke through 3 and 4 just now, I think.
I noticed that as well. I actually saw some smoke in 1 and 2 also. I wonder if it's tire smoke maybe off of one of the drivers that came onto pit road.
I don't think so. Somebody was just on the radio saying, apologizing to somebody that they made contact as well, or they were trying to give them
of Ron Gartner, because he's quite a ways back now.
I mean, potentially. We've completely missed it. It was the 81 that they were talking about, which was Jake Gimbel. So Gimbel's doing all he can, and actually I have a feeling... You know what? I'm not 100% sure who it was. I'm going to refrain from further comment because I've completely lost it.
They're wadded up here. There's the 81 up there of Jay Gimbel.
He's
just
struggling.
behind Patrick McQuaid and just in front of Jeremy Richmond. So you got a group of 5 here, 4 on the lead lap, and Gimbel currently 2 laps down. Zachary Woods with his pit stop now -2, and Alexander Kerfan's pit stop puts him -1. Saw Ron Gartner back there. He is also struggling. Last car on the lead lap, but he's running a throwback to Ryan Newman's 2013 Quicken Loan Chevrolet for Stewart-Haas Racing.
Oh, well, a really interesting moment just happened on the track as well. It also happened in terms of the driver chat that I'm sitting there and I'm listening to at this point in time. Alexander Kerfan just come across the number 9 car of Christopher Lawrence. These are the guys, remember, that just had contact just before. So I'd say Lawrence is still a little bit fired up. He got a little bit tight on the mid-corner, drifted up. Kerfan's trying to give him as much space on those fresher tires as he possibly can. And that was an interesting moment. I think there's going to be some spice had after the race. Lawrence is known for having a little bit of a warmer head. I wouldn't say hot. Hot's the wrong way to go, but I definitely think that he definitely gets a little bit of the red mist in terms of racing scenarios. And the instant he gets out of the car, he's actually a really good guy to talk to about the race at large. So, look, I mean, I think it's just one of those things. The red mist has come down a little bit for Chris Lawrence right now, and the best thing he can do is get his eyes back on the prize and start focusing on his race again.
Right now, Lawrence is running in the 20th position, and it looks like he's got some damage there around right around the grill area there on the front end of his machine. Trying to at least keep that thing on the lead lap here, maybe hoping for a caution to come out. You know, you talk about him and the 99 of Alexander Kerfan. Both those drivers had decent outings last time out at Atlanta. Both gained 6 spots in the standings, but Kerfan's up to 9th. Lawrence, who had the win in the second Daytona race back in season 1, he only jumped up to 16th. So obviously a little bit more work to do. And look at this, the fresh tires of Cam Caldwell have not only pulled him away from the rest of the field, but he's back in a bunch of traffic. He just got around now the lap machine of Ron Gartner. He's also got the 8 of Sizemore that he's dealing with. This is for the race lead.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is interesting, actually. And, I mean, Tom Bourne's been able to track these guys down. That says to me that, that Caldwell overdrove his tires early, and he was running quite well whilst he was out in free. Oh, my God, that's a long way up there from the 8 car.
My goodness. Is there a
How did he
lesson
keep
line
that
at
thing out of the
Nashville? 'Cause
fence?
I think he just ran it.
I mean, look, can you make the high side work here? I don't think you can, but I don't think Ryan Sizemore had much of a choice. I think he was in too deep and it was just recovery mode. Yeah, so Sizemore and Caldwell have overdriven their cars at this point in time. And have a look at DJ Daniel. This is the kind of race course that DJ Daniel is known for performing at as well. So that's why you're starting to see him come back to the fore. Took the first half of the race to go a little bit exploratory and sort of find himself. Now that we've settled down into a longer run, if you actually have a look in terms of traffic, the 24 of Christopher Woodard's on pit lane. I was actually about to have a look at where he was in traffic. He's fallen a long way off the pace. He's opted to go for a pit stop at this point in time. We're about to see green flag pit stops here, by the way, sir.
Oh, and we might have a caution. Ryan Sizemore loose off of 4. Almost collected up Tom Bourne. Yellow flag is out. I don't necessarily think it was for the 8. Oh, it's Brock Silvati, back straightaway.
So it wasn't the 8 that caused that caution. He got a big shot in the wall. And yeah, that's trouble for him. But Silvati as well. I mean, everyone that's just come to pit road, they did not want to see that. They wanted it to go green a little while longer. It's Whitehead. I mean, again, a lot of guys, we talked about it. Everyone is struggling tonight. This is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. So, look, I mean, it's difficult. It is difficult.
Watch here, we're going to focus on the 97 this first time, but then we'll look at the 33 of Trey Whitehead, because he actually had the problem coming off pit road exit. Here you see the car just snaps to the right, back up the racing surface, nowhere for Silvati to go. And the pole sitter finds himself with
There's another car right in front of him. He gets unsettled because of the aero wash from the car that's coming out of pit lane in front of him. He catches, there's a bump on pit lane exit. And I'm just wondering whether or not he's caught the inside grass as well. There's only one way to find out. It's either to go for the overhead or go from the behind view. Yeah, he catches the grass. He catches the grass and the bumps. Remember how we were talking about was it the 3? Who was it that was bouncing down the backstretch and trying to save it and trying to... Yeah, it was Billiter. And he was trying to save it and trying to prevent himself from surging back out into traffic. No control. The grass here is bumpy. Everything that's paved, yeah, it's not the easiest to drive on either, but everything that's grass is bumpy. And Whitehead has just caught his left side tires on the grass on pit lane exit, and I wonder if that's not caused by whoever was just in front of him coming out of pit lane as well. And he's trying to surge, and he's trying to get up to speed nice and quickly so he can pick off that car before he gets to the next corner.
That car would have been the 39 of Ron Gartner. There you see the shot that Ryan Sizemore took into the outside walls. That thing was already in trouble off of turn 4. And
he was struggling.
Can we get a change of underwear for Tom Bourne? Because he probably should have been caught up in that one. It's amazing that the 8...
Whoa. Why is Tom Bourne back to 9th? Did he get a speeding penalty?
Spent about 24.5 seconds in his pit stall. Might have actually been getting some damage repair done on that car. It wouldn't be a penalty. Have to follow up on that one. Not necessarily certain what it would have been that put him that far back for that lengthy of a pit stop.
I mean, everyone around him is coming to the pits.
That you just barely couldn't see between him and the 8 when the 8 lost it off the corner?
The car's perfect. I have to have a look at this one. Yes, so Bourne has just reached out to me and he's just said, yeah, there was damage. There was damage. So he's brushed something at some point, whether or not... So he comes in to pit lane right in front of DJ Daniels, and Caldwell's, I believe, further up the lane, so he's pulled in a little bit earlier, and then he just pulls out behind everyone else.
Alright, so, yeah, we're hearing that when the 8 came off the wall, he did get Tom Bourne in the right rear quarter panel, so... didn't visibly see the contact made, at least not on our replay, but obviously
it's right rear. There's a little tiny crinkle that was on his right rear corner, right above the wheel well. It was tiny. So Bourne's just going, you know what? I'm not going to take the risk. I think sitting himself back in traffic is a bigger risk though. So I don't know. Bourne's made a decision, and the reason he's made this decision is because he's estimated that his tire wear and his overall race pace is going to be compromised. His peak lap pace, he'll probably be okay, but he'll wear that right rear corner much more heavily, and we've seen these guys struggling on that right rear corner. So what he's really trying to do is he's setting himself up for the race at large rather than focusing on a short. So he's actually not too bad. He's on the inside of the 5th row deep, so it's not horrible here, and there's some damaged cars around him too.
So a little bit of housekeeping before we go back green. Alexander Kerfan was the lucky dog under that caution, so he was able to come down, take service. He'll start at the tail end of the field. Chris Woodard, Patrick McQuaid, G. Cato, Christopher Lawrence, Brock Whitehead, and Zachary Woods. They all had to take the wave around.
I wonder if Jenks didn't take a wave around as well. I think Jenks has taken a wave around because he lost pit on lap 56.
Jakes, and I believe also the 81 of Jay Gimble. I think they also took wave rounds also. But
Trey Whitehead's in that mix as well. Yeah. But anyway, look. I mean, I think this has actually spiced this up even more because you've got Cam Caldwell who ran himself to the lead, but he had to drive very aggressively on those tires to get himself there. This time he gets to set himself up for a longer run. He's got control of the pack here. DJ Daniels hasn't slotted back in as high. Oh my word!
TJ Roberts, TJ Daniel, hard into the wall in 3 and 4. And there's more.
What happened there?
David Modespau's been spun. Ron Gartner in the 39's got a lot of front end damage. Oh, and there's further contact between the two.
Just goes, and I'm talking slightly too deep into the corner. I'm talking, if you were to go 3 or 4 feet and get him broke 3 or 4 feet earlier, that wouldn't have even happened. That is the difference here.
Take a look at it. This was a battle at the time inside the top 5 for 3rd place. There's the contact made. 96 tries to save it. We've seen that a lot with drivers trying to save it, but the counter steer just snaps the car back up the racetrack. 3 or 4 drivers have had that happen to them here tonight so far.
The big issue for DJ Daniels is even if he does save it, like there is a hot and hungry pack coming his way. So look, I mean, you know, it is difficult for him to save it and him to keep it out, because it ultimately to get these cars to stay glued, you've got to stay. You know, oh my god, what's he doing? He drives back down the track as well. There's some more driving mistakes in there from DJ Daniels. He's disappointed. It's not an easy accident to save, and then he just sort of rolls. The wreck's basically saved, and he just rolls back down the track. That is a no-no. That is a big no-no, and I have a feeling the admins will take a look at that after the race.
On board with Kyle Gardner. Looks like the car that may have spun David Modespot was the 83 of Brock Whitehead. And you're going to see as Gardner's trying to avoid... Oh, yeah, it was actually DJ Daniel that Gardner almost hit. And then trying to get low to avoid him, he ends up hitting David Modespot, who is still facing the wrong way. And there you see the follow-up contact between Gardner and Modespot, with Gardner bringing it down pit road. Yeah, I agree with you. That's driver etiquette. That car is spun out on the outside of the racetrack. You wait till everybody goes by before that car moves again, because it's a lot easier to avoid a car when you know exactly where it's going to be, rather than trying to predict when it's going to be when it's leaving the incident.
He's got the car stopped. Like, if the car was still rolling slightly at that point in time, okay, there's the argument's different. But it's because he's got the car stopped that it's a big no-no, right? Everyone's reacting because of the way that this track is laid out. You can see that car. There's not enough smoke to block vision of that car, and you've got a whole bunch of guys that are too wide trying to avoid him, and it's just caused a whole separate incident. So DJ Daniels will have a lot of explaining to do after that one. Ultimately, he's another driver that he's got a fast repair probably still up his sleeve. So he's got a car that's going to be still in contention, but he's potentially taken multiple other drivers who no longer have a fast repair out of the race, and that is what the no-no is about. That is a big driver etiquette fail, and he will have a huge case to answer.
Certainly not the way that we wanted to feature David Modespot's throwback here tonight, as he was involved in that incident. But when we showed you that on board with Ron Gartner, racing fans will recognize the black and gold on that Toyota Camry, throwing it back to Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s 1998 NASCAR All-Star race machine. He has had to take on a fast repair, now has David Modespot, TJ Roberts, DJ Daniel. They've taken on fast repairs. It's starting to get easier to name the drivers that don't have fast repairs than the drivers that do. We've got about maybe 3, 4, 5 drivers up inside of your top 13 that have fast repairs, and then everybody from about 17th on down, they've had to use a fast repair during the course of this race, and we've still got a little under 50 laps still remaining in this one. And you know, we ended up having, I think it was 4 cautions in the first half of this race, and we know doesn't matter what track it's at, doesn't matter what league it's at, the aggressiveness kicks up when you get into the second half of the race, the closer you get to that checkered flag. So keep an eye on these guys here for this upcoming restart, as Radius Racing teammates will hold the front row.
I was about to say, remember that statistic I talked about a couple of weeks ago with the more drivers leads, more cars together leads to more car interactions, and eventually it will trigger. So there's a percentage of car-to-car interactions that will lead to an accident, and whenever you create more car-to-car interactions, eventually it's just going to cause an accident. When you get the most car-to-car interactions, restarts. So, Seth, the law of statistics is going to continue, I think, here. I think we're going to get another caution. I don't think we're done yet.
Oh, I fully agree with you on that one here, as Cam Caldwell and Dakota Knoll, the two of them, they ran separate races, but only one race apiece so far this season. Cam Caldwell, he raced last week at Atlanta, finishing in the 30th position, and Dakota Knoll ran Daytona, finishing in 29th. Both of them doing much better here today as they lead us back to green. Aaron Brown's going to slot into 3rd, Jeremy Richmond into 4th, Tom Bourne trying to work his way back up here after restarting in 9th. On the last restart, he's going to lead Kyle Gardner 5th and 6th down the back straightaway.
Yeah, look at this as well. Look at this up the front for the teammates. What a phenomenal drive. Neither of these guys have necessarily had the cleanest of races, the most settled of races, and that are leading the race at this point in time. Caldwell and Nolan, I mean, they've been on different pit strategies, all of this sort of jazz. So it's not being clean, consistent, and easy going for these guys. They've had to position themselves towards the front. Now we've got two of our leaders, though, for the bulk of the race in Christopher Woodard and Tom Bourne. They're buried in traffic. So how these guys play their races from here on out, and especially the next 20 or so laps, is going to have a big impact on where they finish. So right now, oh my word, look at the spread out back there.
Michael Shore with a big slide off of turn 4.
Don't say that about my favorite Aussie. Don't say that about my favorite Aussie.
I call it like I see it. But he saved it though. He made it look good.
He is a talented driver. Michael Shore's got a lot of pedigree behind him. He's run a lot of races, and I know the guy is very, very experienced, and he'll be conscious of that car's handling differently now after the save as well. So I was talking to him before the race, and he said, look, I mean, it's not all going according to plan for him in terms of this season so far, and what he's got to do right now, and he was very conscious of this as well, was he's got to just focus on consistent results and getting himself, oh my word, he got loose again. So he's struggling right now. He just needs to turn consistent results and try and focus on getting his way to the playoff. And I mean, if you're on the top 10 every single race of the season, he's just about guaranteed a playoff. So it doesn't need to be a win for Michael Shore. It just needs to be top 10s.
Second place under contest as Aaron Brown looks to break up the teammates. He will do so. Moving into the runner-up spot, Tom Bourne looks to fill the hole left by the 95. Can't quite keep to the left rear quarter panel of Dakota Knoll. Knoll will hang on to the third position for the time being. We ran you through all the throwbacks tonight. One that is also not in the field. Looked like he was going to be taking the green flag. He is in the server, but I guess decided not to take the green flag this evening is the 38. And unfortunately, we're not going to see Clifford Corvo in this race, but he was going to be throwing back that machine.
Big fan out, Steph. Big fan out. I just heard Alexander Kerfound on the radio saying that reckon out of 4, oh, great save, reckon out of 4, oh, great save. So there's something going on back in that pack, and I think it might have been either Lawrence or Daniels. No, it's actually just ahead of them. So I think it was McQuaid that was struggling. It's either McQuaid or the 88. So either 77 or the 88. Actually, both of them make contact. They save it. They nearly make contact again. They save it. So really good driving by the entire pack that they're around. But that pack has gone from being a little settled out, drivers starting to make their way back to the floor, back into an angry hornet's nest.
And we're starting to see as well with them all wadded up, those checkups taking place there. Matthew Fleming had to back off for Anthony Zerko, who found himself in a 3-wide situation yet again. Earlier on in that restart, we saw him drop towards the back. He didn't have an issue. He was on the apron of a 3-wide situation and felt it would be safer if he backed out of it and dropped back to a safe spot, now trying to make forward progress. But talking again there about Clifford Corvo in that 38, he was going to be throwing it back to, I believe it was 1985 Cale Yarborough when he drove the Hardee's machine. So unfortunately, we don't are able to see him on the track here tonight, but going to give his throwback a shout out nonetheless. As and Caldwell looks back in his rearview mirror, it's not his teammate anymore. It's the 95 of Aaron Brown, and he is starting to close up the gap for the race lead.
Oh, cars in the fence actually way up in the background as well. They've managed to save it. Yeah.
Oh!
God damn it. You know what he said? You know the one thing he did actually say to me was, "Don't bring me up on stream. Don't talk about me, and everything will be fine."
I didn't get that memo. You should have told me pre-broadcast. He's on the infield grass now, trying to get that thing pointed in the right direction. Fortunately, his spin was towards the back and nobody else was coming. There's the race leaders flying on by, so no caution comes out for that, but might have actually been a case where he would have liked to have seen a caution because now he's trapped -1.
Oh, that's unfortunate. That is really, really unfortunate. Oh, man. I will never, ever talk about him during a race ever again. And he might have an opportunity towards the back end.
Kyle Gardner, the 49 I just noticed, is up here inside of the top 5, brushed the wall there. But currently holding down the 4th position. And this is a guy that has spent most of this race kind of mired back in the eye of the storm there, around 10th through 15th. So a little bit of a late surge here for him. Don't forget though, Kyle Gardner pointed his way into the Final 4 last year, was in the hunt for the championship. So maybe a guy that's a little bit of a dark horse, maybe an under the radar type of driver, but boy, he gets up there towards the front when it matters.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's been a few guys, that are sort of showing their wares. Kyle Gardner's, and you got to remember from Kyle Gardner's standpoint, it's not easy. He's had a difficult night. He's been involved in a lot of separate incidents, or I say incidents. I'm going to say micro incidents because that's what they've been. They haven't been full-blown incidents, and he's looked after that car. He's kept it safe. He hasn't fenced it. I think he may have burned his fast repair at some point, but he has definitely had one of the more difficult nights. And he's right there, and he's in contention. And when you're talking about fighting for a championship and giving yourself the opportunity to go into the playoffs, these are the kind of drives you need to put together. It's so difficult, though, because he has had probably, in terms of difficulty, if I'm going to put drivers tonight running in the top 6, on a difficulty scale, Kyle Gardner he is number 1. He has had the most difficult night, and you cannot do this week in, week out. You need some luck to go your way. So ultimately tonight has been his night. He's driven a phenomenal race, really, really looked after the car. Great opportunity here for Kyle Gardner to just put a whole bank of points together.
Yeah, well, he has gotten in the wall a couple of times, but they've been rushes, so I don't think it's really affected the car terribly, as he's now under fire from Tom Bourne for 4th place. We talked about Tom Bourne getting that right rear damage repaired to kind of put him back in traffic. I'm looking right now at our top 5, and I am shocked with what I'm seeing here, but a driver that has used a fast repair, and it was actually under the last caution, your race leader, Cam Caldwell. So I don't know what he ran into maybe on that last run. I don't know what the circumstances are, but the guy that's showing the way right now is a fast repair in the hole.
But he's had to do that from Ken Caldwell's side of things. I mean, he had to give himself the opportunity, and I think the reason he did actually come down for tyres at that caution, and he's offset in terms of strategy, it may have actually been that as Brown is going to set at the inside, make contact, and the 12 slides up the racetrack, and then 95 gets the run off the corner, and maybe the 10 of his teammates going to slide on through as well.
Go to Knoll. Is he going to look 3 wide here into turn 3? Not quite close enough, as Brown going to get the power down through the center of the corner, clears for the top position, and now he will show the way here at Nashville Superspeedway. But things got wadded up because now Tom Bourne pulls it to Brock Silvani.
Oh!
They're up here and they want to play.
I think Brown just made a mistake on corner entry. It might have been Caldwell got in a little bit too deep. I think Caldwell might have made a shot to the back of the 95. We were talking about Hornet's Nest. In the back of that pack, I'm looking from P12 to about P21. But ultimately, that's a Hornet's Nest that right now settled itself out. This is the big one. Somebody makes a mistake, the whole pack has to check up. It's who's aware of it that's the problem.
And as these drivers are battling, I'm noticing Christopher Woodard and DJ Daniel back there. Oh, caution!
Oh, caution!
Ryan Sizemore at circled. That's Zach Woods. I think that's Modespa in the grass. Multi-car incident on the front straightaway.
Oh, that's a big one. That is a big one. There's multiple cars that are held up in this as well.
Car smoking. That's David Modespa. That might be day over for him.
Well, there's a couple drivers in this that are going to be day over.
Yeah. Zach
and
Woods,
Ryan Sizemore is one of them. And at the end of the day, there's a couple drivers in this pack that are, I'm just listening to the driver chatter. It's difficult, right? Remember we were talking about the difficulty scale of this track? That means the driver's patience. It slowly wears away. One of the drivers that's starting to lose a little bit of patience because he's been a little bit unlucky in terms of circumstances. It's actually Zachary Wood. He's remember how we were talking about with DJ Daniels? That he was not potentially holding his brakes and he let that car roll down the track a little bit? Well, Woods has actually noticed a few incidents where drivers maybe potentially aren't just hanging on to their brake pedal, and it's causing issues for a bunch of the drivers that they're around. So, ultimately, I think Woods might be in the hole this time. I think he's done. He might just be done. There's a whole bunch going on here.
He was the one that got the 8 of Ryan Sizemore spinning back down the racetrack. Looked like just
That's a college just spinning.
Disagreement of space there between the
Yeah.
8 and the 61. I don't think Circle realized he wasn't quite clear coming up there off of turn 4. Another driver that did get a piece of it there that we didn't document was the 4 of Fleming, Matthew Fleming. He actually got a little bit of front end damage in that as well.
That's disappointing. There's a lot of cars going to have damage out of this, and I don't know how many of these guys are actually going to be able to get it repaired. It's going to be manual repairs because there's a lot of fast repairs that are no longer left in cars in the field. But Seth, I think we've actually got a really good opportunity here to quickly grab and have a chat to Tom Bourne, who I think he's had an interesting race tonight. We cannot discount that fact.
Absolutely. I mean, we can only speculate what these drivers are dealing with out there just based on what we see. Let's actually go inside the mind of a driver. Let's talk with Tom Bourne, who coming off pit lane is going to be restarting 4th for this upcoming restart. Tom, Scott, and Seth up here in the upper end booth. Got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
All right, so obviously we know that you spent a little bit of extra time on pit road a couple of cautions ago, getting some damage repaired to that machine, but we've seen you be able to get that car up there to the front. Does the car still feel the same way it did earlier on before that contact between you and the 8?
On newer tires, it kind of felt a little looser on the back end, but other than that, the car's still fast. I'm just trying to be, smooth like a nice vanilla shake, if you know what I mean. So.
It's catching on, boys. Vanilla shake. You gotta look after your car like that smooth, buttery vanilla shake, eh?
Listen,
yesterday Gap Whack, today vanilla shake.
Yeah, well, you always got to be smooth like one of those. So, but nah, the car's good. The long run speed's there. The short run speed's kind of on par with everyone else. It just matters on what happens with everybody else during the run.
Difficult package here to drive too, Tom, and it's even more difficult to drive it in traffic, and there's only one guy that can be at the head of traffic as well. So I mean, you've run periods of time where you've been at the head of the traffic, you've run periods of time where you've been deep in the traffic. Right now, I think this restart is probably the most crucial restart of the night with 20, 25, 26-ish laps to the end. You want to get clear of this pack if you can, because then you can kind of set sail a little bit into the distance.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to try and work as fast as we can through these top 3 guys. I know Caldwell used, his fast repair, and he used his last set of tires on this pit stop. So I don't know what Aaron and Dakota are on, but I know that, Cam did that. It's whatever happens. I just need a solid finish here, but a win would be great, honestly.
It's been a consistent season for you so far. That's what you've been focused on. I mean, a couple of issues last week with getting back to the checkered on the green. You were looking for a move to Christopher Woodard, who's your teammate, and he's going to be restarting right in here behind you. So good opportunity for you guys to work together again. It's the target of those consistent finishes in this series, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when you can't make the playoffs by getting a win, it all comes down to like the old NASCAR format where you just got to be consistent throughout the season. Dead last at Daytona definitely didn't help, but 4th last week and hopefully a top 5 this week, will help propel us into at least top 15, top 10.
All right, well, you get back out there, buddy, and go make me a vanilla shake, eh?
Listen, if I win this race, all the vanilla shakes will be in victory lane, okay?
I'll see you down there.
All right, see you later.
Tom Bourne going to restart in the 4th position behind Aaron Brown, Dakota Knoll, and Cam Caldwell. Interesting there with Caldwell. We know he did that strategy around the midway point of this race, took on the fresh tires, so now he has no more tires waiting for him. Most everybody else around him probably have at least one more set for these final 25 laps, and we do have one driver that DNF from that incident that brought out this latest yellow. Ryan Sizemore has gone to the garage area, joining Michael Short, who actually put it back there about 10, 12 laps ago. So 2 drivers at this point in time out of this race. We've still got 26 running, and with Jay Gimbel getting lucky dog under the last caution, 21 of them on the lead lap.
Oh, Savati!
Man!
Savati holds it. I was just watching that battle directly between Savati and actually Tom Bourne, who we were just talking to. Savati's sitting it deep on corner entry. Bourne is, well, he is. We just told him, we just reminded him that he's going to go make himself a smooth vanilla milkshake. He's doing that, though. That's that's the result that I took out of that conversation that we had with him, and I'm just watching the inputs that he's making and the way that he's driving the car, and he's focused on that, and maybe his teammates getting a little aggressive behind him. I think Bourne has got his sights set on the long run here. He said he had long run pace in this car. Now is the time to show it. 20-something laps, 25-ish laps to the end. He's got a really good shot here tonight. He needs to look after it.
I'll tell you what, we've got some great features here at FRN, but one thing I want us to install in the near future is a heart rate monitor for the commentators, because I think my heart rate spiked twice there off of turn 4 in consecutive laps with that 97 of Silvani.
Well, I tell you what, when I get going, I mean, I'm not breathing all that well. I don't know about you. It's difficult to get oxygen in there. A big shout out to Matthew Rodriguez at the FRN crew. But buddy, what I'm gonna need is I'm gonna need you to buy an oxygen machine so I can get that hooked up, make sure I'm breathing properly right throughout the race, eh?
My goodness, I mean, the way that these guys are able to keep their cars going, and I feel like I'm driving their cars for them. I don't know what their heart rate is, but I feel like I'm driving their cars for them, just how I feel watching them try and keep these things underneath them here at Nashville Super Speedway. Battle for third is Tom Bourne to the inside of Dakota Knoll. Knoll was trying to stay in the tire tracks of Cam Caldwell, but now under fire, and here comes Christopher Woodard, as you mentioned, teammate of Tom Bourne's out of Rebel Racing and looking for back-to-back victories in the first 3 races of the season.
Oh, lots of smoke. Lots of smoke off 3 and 4. I think that's who's running in 26. That is David Motorsport. I think it was Motorsport that made the smoke. I don't think that it was Aaron Brown that's at the lead of this group. Oh! Big shot at the 10.
And Knoll up the track there as he's going to drop outside of the top 5. Now falls back into the clutches of, we'll call it Group 2. Brock Silvani and Kyle Gardner as the top 5 start to break away from the rest of the field.
And have a look who's played themselves back into contention. We saw DJ Daniels had a big moment early on, got to the fence, big accident. He's got that fast repair. He's got himself back out there on the racing surface. That's David Motorsport that's drifting high.
Okay,
that's the
sorry,
lap
I think
car.
that was a lead lap car.
But look at DJ Daniels. I mean, you have to be quick, but you also have to be consistent, and he's given himself another car that's put himself in with a shot here, and that's what he needed, and that's what his team needed from him.
My goodness, what a season we've had already in terms of racing. Daytona was unbelievable. Last week at Atlanta, we saw maybe one of the best green flag run segments we've seen in a long time. And man, they are putting on a show here at Nashville Super Speedway as Tom Bourne. I'm not certain if he was throwing a block on DJ Daniel or if DJ Daniel was hoping he could throw it in and make it stick, but they almost made some contact for third.
Racy back there, and I mean, we are under 20 laps to go now, so that, again, talking about it earlier on the broadcast, but it kicks up a notch now. I mean, you thought that the patience was starting to wear thin. It's going to start wearing real thin, just like these tires tread on the cement surface as well.
Yeah, no doubt about that. A guy that right now is setting sail is Aaron Brown. It's 1.6 seconds back to a wad up for second place. Caldwell has it. Got Tom Bourne right behind him. Battle now for fourth as Chris Woodard jumps to the top side of DJ Daniel. And nice recovery there for Dakota Knoll. Saw him almost go up and get the outside wall there in 1 and 2 a couple of laps ago. He's back in this fight.
Yeah, and have a look at this. This works really well for Tom Bourne here. This is and Dakota Knoll. These are the two drivers that are making a big advantage out of seeing Woodard and DJ Daniels going side to side. This means that Tom Bourne no longer has to look in the rearview mirror. He's got his eyes set sail forward, and this is part of the reason that Dakota Knoll's put himself back into it. Right now, Bourne has got his eyes fixed on that car ahead of him. He's got a really good shot here, but he needs to get past Caldwell soon, and he just caught the apron, did Tom Bourne. He's in trouble, and have a look how close DJ Daniel and Christopher Woodard are as well.
You can see the back end of the 96 almost come around as we're on board with Dakota Knoll in the 6th position. Get him a bowl of popcorn because he's got a show right there in front of him. And I'm noticing some other drivers that are just at the tail end of this pack. How about the 9 of Christopher Lawrence? He had a fast repair he had to use earlier on. He's now up here battling with Jeremy Richmond for the 10th position. They're going to make some contact, actually, there through 3.
I was about to say, I think Lawrence is starting to struggle a little bit. He's not getting down as deep as he wants to into the corners. He's not getting it all the way down there. He's really struggling to get the power back in. I think his car's getting really, really tight underneath him. And I think Richmond's just going to use a little bit of patience here, use his head, maybe give Lawrence a little bit of, maybe a half a car extra's worth of space, and he'll get this job done.
What the Ahead of them, it's going to be Dakota Knoll looking to the... Oh, contact! There goes Woodard, hard up into the outside wall. He's going to get hit by, I believe that might have possibly been the 77 of Patrick McQuaid.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% correct there, Seth. It's McQuaid. And that is a massively damaged race car on two sides of the coin here. McQuaid is smoking. That thing is Dunsky. So I hope that guy's got a fast repair left over. And Christopher Woodard, he's had another phenomenal rate. Last week's winner, and with, what do we got, 13 left on the board? It goes sideways for him. Oh man, Christopher Woodard, phenomenal race last week, phenomenal pushing the week before at Daytona, but you're going to have one of these bad races, and ultimately Nashville has brought a lot of the best drivers unstuck here tonight, and Christopher Woodard's amongst those.
Well, Patrick McQuaid does have a faster pair, but remember I announced my surprise that Cam Caldwell had used a faster pair at that point? Also, the 24 of Christopher Woodard had used a fast repair. So that says to me, last week's winner's day is done. About 12 laps away from the conclusion of this race.
What do you do in terms of tires right now, Seth? I mean, we talk about Bourne. He said Caldwell's got nothing left. There was a long enough run there that I would want to be on fresh tires. We got 10 laps to the end. This is the last possible moment for a lot of these drivers to come to pit lane. They come any later, they're not going to have long enough to get back to the lead. This caution is set up perfectly for a strong finish. The guys that are on older tires, they are going to be close to dead in the water. They've got opportunities. They have definitely got opportunities, but they need to work together. If they fight, if they squabble in any way that slows the whole group down, Tom Bourne wants to see that. He 100% wants to see these guys fight.
Where do the fresh tires go is going to be the other question, because 6 drivers elected to stay out. Cam Caldwell obviously is one of them because he was off tire sequence back around the midway portion of this race. Also, DJ Daniel, Brock Stilwati, Jay Gimbel, Noah Owens, and Mike Sibanovsky. They are going to be the first 3 rows when we take the green flag once again. The highest starting driver on fresh tires is going to be mired back in the 4th row.
I was here ahead of these guys, so I think they've got options to try and get by. Sibanovsky has not been quick tonight, so I think they're going to get by him relatively quickly. Noah Owens, Jay Gimbel. Jay Gimbel's back on the lead lap after being laps down very, very early on and off sequence. So another driver that I think has certainly struggled. I think these guys are out of tires, quite frankly. I think they're focused on the best finish that they can possibly achieve. And one of the things that they need to do to achieve that is make sure that they don't end up in the fence. So drivers from both sides of the coin here have a very, very big responsibility. The guys that are out here on those older tires, they have a responsibility to everyone, including themselves, to achieve a good finish. And the only way that works is if they make sure they don't make contact. The guys that are coming through also have a responsibility. Yes, they need to be aggressive, but they still need to make sure that they are not in Christopher Woodard's shoes with one of the fastest, strongest cars tonight sitting on a trailer out the back because you've collided heavily with another car and then the fence.
Of the 6 drivers that are out here on the old tires, 5 of them have used their fast repair. The only one that hasn't is Noah Owens in the 88. So yeah, if any of these 5 drivers up here, Caldwell, Daniel, Silvati, Gimbel, or Sibanovsky, get involved in an incident here in these final 10 laps, actually be less than that when we go back green, that's pretty much their day over and done with. Ron Gartner got the free pass under that caution, so 22 drivers will be on the lead lap. Patrick McQuaid had the faster pair. However, TJ Roberts and Christopher Woodard, who were also involved in that, they did not have a faster pair to fall back on. 45 seconds in his stall for Woodard, about a minute for TJ Roberts. They've returned back to the racetrack, however, still on the lead lap, 19th and 20th respectively for this upcoming restart, which is going to be with 9 laps to go as the lights are out atop the iRacing pace car.
But they're driving modifiers at this point in time. There's a fair few cars that are back there heavily damaged. So McQuaid now has the responsibility again to get by some of these cars. I'm just having a look. Joshua Billiter, he's still in there. He's still out there. He's still circulating. I'm having a look at the 11. TJ Roberts, he's another modifier. There's a big piece of machinery that's missing at the front end of that machine as well. So ultimately, from Patrick McQuaid's point of view, another driver here who needs to get by Oh, big checkup actually back in the pack. There's a bunch of drivers here that are going to be down on power, and they just need to get their heads down, get clear of the pack, and make sure they allow guys an opportunity to race this one out.
Well, here we go, getting set for a 9-lap shootout. Things get a little stacked up in the inside line as Noah Owen spins the tires. Everybody trying to avoid the 88 as Caldwell got himself a decent restart. Look at him, 3 wide, 3 rows back around the 10th position.
I'll tell you what, Tom Bourne didn't get the restart that he needed, but Dakota Knoll got an absolute flyer. So it's going to be Dakota Knoll that's the first car on fresh tires. This guy has not led a lap so far tonight. He's had a couple of opportunities to put himself right up there. The 81's now been passed. Here come the fresh tires.
Actually, the highest on fresh tires right now is 95, 3rd place.
Sorry, yeah, you're right. I missed him. Wow.
He's got his teammate right in front of him, Brock Silvati. He's going to swing around the outside of both Caldwell and Silvati. He's
got it.
The race lead.
Oh my word. And, one thing that I was thinking in the back of my mind was there's one guy out here that does not want to see a caution when that one come out. Was Aaron Brown. You know what? He don't care. He just drove it straight back to the lead. He drove it around the outside of those guys. Great job.
My goodness, some contact there between Dakota Knoll and DJ Daniel around the 4th position. So much so the 10 got unsettled and may have had his right front come off the racing surface for a brief moment. Don't know how they both kept it pointed in the right direction. And now Gardner gets into Richmond.
Yeah, and it is getting spicy back there. You've got so many guys that are on these fresh tires, and they're trying to find their way through. They really, really are. You've got Knoll. We're going 3 wide. Turns 97.
Big hit into the outside wall. The track's going to be completely blocked up through 3 and 4. More drivers piling in. McQuaid, Zirkle, Jay Gimbel. Looks like Kerfan was involved. There's another driver up there I can't make out. Before it was the big one. This was the huge one.
Well,
6, 7, 8 drivers at least leaving the scene of the accident with very significant damage.
I want to see that one from the 97's point of view. That's a difficult one to call, to be perfectly honest with you, Seth, because I don't feel like the spotter for the 97 would have said anything about Tom Bourne being there, but he would have known. He has a rearview mirror, and he would have been racing very much in the rearview mirror at that point in time, because he's got 2 cars around him that he knows are on fresh tires, but at the same time, this is Silvati protecting the race for a teammate. He makes it tight. I don't know. This is difficult. This is very, very difficult. He's already moving down the racetrack before Bourne's there. Ultimately, Bourne has to go for it. I don't want to say that Tom Bourne shouldn't have gone for that one there, because there was a hole. There was definitely a hole. Initially, when he puts the car in that space, there's enough to get 3 cars through there. Silvati's running in the 3rd groove in terms of where the seams are, so there's space. And as he gets there, the space closes. That's just another one of those racing incidents. It's unfortunate, but there's nothing anyone can do about that one. Everyone's trying to drive their race as clean as they possibly can. Silvati's defending for his teammate at the same time as trying to get himself home in hopefully a top 5 position. That's guys racing hard, and at the end of the day, that's what we want to see, and we've seen that by and large for the bulk of the night.
This incident take Jay Gimbel officially out of this race. Saw Gene Cato get involved. Mentioned the 99.
Oh no, did Bourne's burn his fast repair? When did Bourne burn his fast repair? He's got nothing left.
Maybe under that last caution. Maybe drivers felt that with it being less than 10 to go, it was time to use the fast repair if you needed it.
It's okay. Let's talk this out. Let's look at Tom Bourne's decision making and why he's made a decision that he has made. On one hand, yeah, you're right. You've got 10 laps at the end. It's a 9-lap shootout. You want the best car that he had. He had a slight scrape. This guy has had nearly the perfect race. He's kept this car super clean for an extended period of time, tried to get as much of that damage handled earlier on as he possibly could. Didn't get it handled to the best of his ability. Car still wasn't 100%, but it was 98, 99%. Is it worth it to burn a fast repair to get that extra 1 or 2% back? In a 9-lap shootout, there's going to be close racing, and you're buried in the traffic, and there's under 10 to go. Ultimately, you are in the highest risk section of the race. I think he's made a decision, but I think it's put all the eggs in one basket decision, And, well, my man Tom Bourne's not making himself a vanilla milkshake.
He is not. He is back on the track, but he's going to obviously have a very wounded race car. As a matter of fact, I think you probably have to go maybe only the top 10 are drivers that might have a car up to speed. Everybody else on back, they're kind of licking their wounds here for the closing stages of this race. You got Ron Gardner, Alexander Kerfan, who we were just on board with, Christopher Woodard, who was involved in the caution previous to this, Tom Bourne, Noah Owens actually had to use his faster pair. He got a piece of that incident back there as well. You know, it's interesting because when I was observing these drivers earlier on in practice, I was looking at this track, looking at the fact that it's a concrete 1 1/3 mile racetrack, and I thought, where do they get off calling it a super speedway? Because most of your super speedways are over 2 miles in length, but then when you see an incident like that where you're carrying so much speed into the corner and there's nowhere for you to be able to go, that type of a big one wreck, yeah, that's got all the telltale signs of what a super speedway's like.
Yeah, ultimately, I think Nashville, it was to do with licensing rights and why they went with the super speedway moniker. But yeah, look, I mean, it's... I'm going to be honest, I think it's a speedway, and they've just gone, you know what, the track's so good, the racing's so excellent, we're just going to call it super. We're not calling it a super speedway, we're calling it a super speedway.
Aha. Makes sense.
So, yeah, and I mean, the racing that we've seen by and large for the bulk of the night, again, remember the difficulty factor here. Remember that you've got guys that are trying to... We've got a lot of different tire strategies here at this point in the race because guys have burned up all of their tire sets. Ultimately, you're going to get to see Aaron Brown, Dakota Knoll go head-to-head on fresh tires. After that, you've got Gardner, also fresh tires. Cam Caldwell, old tires. Christopher Lawrence, fresh tires. DJ Daniel, old tires. And then you got a modified in there. We're about to get spicy, boys.
Yeah, Modified's actually up there in the entire, I think it was the 4th row there with Richmond and Whitehead as Brown leads him into the corner. Look at Knoll drive it deep to the back bumper. The 95 sends it way up the racetrack and is going to lose a lot of ground off the second corner.
And we're going to be grabbing the white flag the next time we cross that start-finish stripe as well. Otherwise, we're going to green-white checkers.
He got a bumper full of Christopher Lawrence there for the 4th position, but I think they will make it back to the white.
Yeah, now we're going to be 3 wide back there. Keep your eyes. DJ Daniels doing his best. Christopher Lawrence, he wants a piece. He wants a podium here, but he's got to get going.
Oh, well, on those old tires, really hold him up behind Jeremy Richmond, who was left for
Whitehead!
Whitehead! Hard into the wall, down to the grass. Nobody should hit him, I don't think, as Aaron Brown through 3 and 4. Plenty of space back to the battle for second. Runner-up at Daytona. 2 weeks later, he's a winner at Nashville Super Speedway.
And I tell you what, Seth, we are 3 brand new winners from 3 races. Nobody so far in this series has won a race that was a previous return winner. What a race we've had tonight. Ultimately, right up and down.
I think Dakota Knoll may have fallen out just before getting to the start-finish line. So Gardner moves up to 2nd and Lawrence 3rd on the results.
I'm showing Dakota Knoll scored at 1 lap down.
Yeah, me too. Did Knoll get a penalty on that restart that we don't know about? Aaron Brown gonna do his
He crossed the stripe. He crossed the stripe on the track.
Restart penalty had to have been.
I'm confused. I am so confused. I didn't think that he did anything untoward on that restart.
Aaron
did he
Brown,
lane change?
Possibly.
But that's an admin penalty.
This race. We know that's official. Big question mark, though, about what happened with Dakota Knoll, who was en route to finish in the 2nd position, and right now is scored, as you said, 1 lap down in the 20th position. But how about Aaron Brown, though? First time that he is going to go to victory lane in only his 3rd start in the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series. He helped push his teammate Brock Silvati to the win back at Daytona and gets his just rewards 2 weeks later here winning at Nashville Superspeedway. Tremendous job by him, and I would venture to say, just based on what we saw out of him in the first half of this race, maybe one of the more consistent faster cars in the field all night long.
You know what? I think Dakota Knoll may have gotten an incident point penalty. No, there's no penalties. There's no incident point. I'm confused. Yeah, but look, I mean, Aaron Brown drove his way through the field multiple times. Didn't get the qualifying performance. You remember exactly what you said. He qualified in P15, right? The guy didn't look like he got the qualifying performance out of the car that he needed to get. But that seems to be a trade out of Aaron Brown. I just don't think that he's a good qualifier overall. But he drives this car on the long run. He is so good at looking after tires. He's so good at positioning the car where he needs to put the car. And what about Kyle Gardner? Here's a guy that I'd written off for all money, walks away with an unofficial, because I'm gonna put that moniker on it right now. I think it's unofficial. I don't know. I think that Dakota Knoll deserves a P2, and I need to see an explanation to say why he doesn't get that P2. So, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure.
We will see if we can... We'll check and see if we can find out what exactly happened to him here. We will, at least for the time being, we will interview the official top three that they're showing on our end, which would be Aaron Brown, who continues to do burnouts. Why not? Your first win in
God, yeah, what a
BackFire.
race,
Kyle
man.
Gardner and Christopher Lawrence right now out of Rebel Racing being scored in the second and third position. So we'll be talking to them. We might actually be able to get some insight on the Dakota Knoll incident with Christopher Lawrence, the third place finisher, since he is one of the admins. But the BackFire 200 does belong officially, though, to Aaron Brown. And you look at his first two races on the season, mentioned he finished second at Daytona, and then last week was up there in the thick of it, battling for the race lead at Atlanta, got involved in that incident off of 2, hit the inside wall, DNF'd in the 26th position. So a nice comeback run for Aaron Brown here today, who came into this race currently in the 18th position in the point standings. Let's see if we can talk here with the third place finisher, Christopher Lawrence, get a little bit of an idea not only of what he experienced here today, but maybe get a little bit of admin info as well on the incident there with the 10 of Dakota Knoll. Hey, Christopher, Scott, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yes, sir.
All right, so first things first, man, a heck of a comeback run from you here tonight. We saw how you got some early damage. We're kind of struggling with the race car, but all of a sudden, second half of the race, and that car seemed to find a new gear up there inside the top 10, eventually the top 5, and bring it home with a solid third place run. Saw a lot of drivers struggling with this concrete surface. What was it like for you?
It's slippery. We were sliding everywhere tonight. I mean, these corners, you lose tires so fast. So you go in one time, you're good. The next time you come into it, you got to brake earlier. It's definitely tricky. So, the first half of the race, it took us some time to get our mentals right and, find that consistency. Our goal tonight was to be as smooth as my favorite milkshake, vanilla.
It's become the thing. I mentioned milkshakes once, right? I told Seth about Gapwack once, and now Seth has only ever talked about Gapwack since. So that's something else. Now we got the milkshake, man. Look, it's a difficult racetrack. You mentioned that, but it's difficult pack racing as well. I think I heard you on the radio a couple times there. It was not easy. And that ultimately, when you are fighting the track and the car, which a lot of people were out there tonight, just fighting the track and the car, having to manage the pack around you was even more difficult. So look, I mean, talk us through the mentality of a brutal race like that, and I can pretty much guarantee that your heart rate would have been through the roof for the bulk of that as well.
Yeah, Nashville brings some close racing, especially after the cautions. There's numerous times we were going, 3, 4 wide around some of these corners. And like we were talking about earlier with the slipperiness of the concrete, on this track, it tends to bring some good racing, but it's very nerve-wracking when you're in the middle of that 3 wide, or you're low and you don't know where these cars are, and you're just trying to control your car, but while you're finding that limit of that speed. So there was definitely a couple times we had the heart rate up there, but a lot of these guys we've raced with for quite some time. So we got some good competition. These drivers really know how to handle themselves. So we're very confident with the guys around us, and luckily we were able to keep it clean.
Of course, as a driver with the points as close as they are, only 2 races coming into this under your guys' belt. Everything pretty closely compacted as far as driver ahead and driver behind in the standings. This will undoubtedly move you up at least into the top 10 comfortably. So obviously a big plus there, carrying that momentum into Pocono. But we also mentioned the fact that you're here tonight as well in the adminship duties. We saw the incident there with the 10 scored in second, coming to the start finish line, and then all of a sudden dropping down to 1 lap down in the 20th position. Can you shed some light on what happened there?
Yeah, it looks like he got disconnected. Unfortunately, tonight a couple people are having some issue with the packet loss with iRacing, so I'm not too sure what happened there, but it looks like he got disconnected from the service. So it's unfortunate for him. He was running strong all night. You hate to see that happen to a guy, but it seems like there were some internet issues.
There's a
Now,
couple of
on
drivers
that,
have that issue.
Chris, I'd actually just like to what's the server and the admin, sorry, the league admin's stance on that? Do you guys because this is a really good opportunity, not just from a league standpoint, to have a look at the rules, to review the rules. That car. Again, this is difficult because from my standpoint, and I'm an Australian, remember, I've got a bigger differential to the server. On my screen, he crosses the line. On your screen, he may not have crossed the line. That is the differential between servers, and we're going to experience that in all games forever, right? So this is not me just going out and saying, iRacing bad. That is just part and parcel of video gaming and life in general as it stands, right? What is the league stance on that? Do you go back? Do you have a look at it? Are you going to review it and chat to the admin team about do you give null points for the second place out of that, or do you score him 1 lap down?
Yeah, our rule would be to follow the iRacing scoring. So, he'd be placed, unfortunately, at the back. But, without having much information, on my screen, it looked like he was disconnected a little ahead of time, but again, like you said, it's going to be different, for everybody. So, we definitely will review it. Our goal at BackFire is to make sure everything is fair for everybody. So, we'll definitely take a look at it. But right now it's probably going to stand that he's going to have to finish with that disqualification, unfortunately.
All right, well, we appreciate you clearing that up for us there, Chris. Once again, though, congratulations on a great run here tonight at Nashville Super Speedway. A podium finish that, as I said, undoubtedly is going to move you up into the top 10 in points. It'll be interesting to see where it does slot you heading into Pocono next week. We're now going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to my team, Christopher Woodard, Tom Bourne, Kyle Gertner, Ron Gertner. They were a huge help tonight, keeping everybody calm, cool, and collected. Woodard and Bourne were running up front there for quite some time, so they were able to give us some tips to keep us fast around the track. So we got to give a huge shout out to Team Rebel Racing, and also our missing teammate, Christopher Hubka. He was down with an illness tonight, so he was unable to make it. So I hope he's feeling better. We'll hope to have him back for next week. Big shout out to you guys, Flatout Racing Network. You guys are awesome. So thank you guys for another great broadcast.
That's Chris.
Go make yourself a podium milkshake for me, Chris.
I'm off to McDonald's as we speak.
McFlurry count as a milkshake? I think it does. Christopher Lawrence finishes P3 here tonight in the BackFire 200 at Nashville Super Speedway. Congrats, Chris, and best of luck next week at Pocono.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Let's see if we can talk with the guy that brings it home second place here this evening, Kyle Gartner. Hey, Kyle, Scott and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
I don't think he does. Give us a sec.
I think.
Go again?
A sec. We might have him again. Take 2. Kyle, guys up here in the FRN booth.
We're trying.
While we wait while we wait for Kyle Gartner, just give a little bit of a backstory here, real quick, Scott. You talk about milkshakes. Well, ever since Gap Whack was introduced, when I'm on a bowling team on Thursday nights to kind of separate out whose drink is whose, I've got started instead of writing my name, I write hashtag Gap Whack. This coming Thursday night, I'm ordering a milkshake and writing hashtag Gap Whack on it. I'm going to combine the two next Thursday night.
Please send me a photo.
I
I
will
don't
do
think my
that.
life will be complete until I receive said photo. So
It is going to happen. Well, let's try another time here, see if we can connect with our second place finisher. Kyle, the guys up here in the upper end booth, you got us?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, man, I mean, no doubt about it, your paint scheme threw back some vibes for me. I remember Ken Schrader in that Schwann's machine back in 2005. Probably one of my favorite paint schemes from that year. Really cool to see you pilot up there to the second position, but it wasn't easy because we kind of saw you mired back 10th to 15th for a majority of this race. What was the turning point that got you up there into the top 5?
It was really just like a patience game. I think a really good pit in the middle of the race got me just past some of the guys that I was getting behind, because once it gets logged up like that, where it's too wide stuff, you can't really push it 3 wide here. So right when I got a good pit and came out ahead of those guys, then I could progress a little bit forward and get up to the front.
Kyle, it was a difficult race tonight. I think you made a lot of contact with different cars throughout the evening, but it was that kind of evening. I mean, we talk about Rubbins racing at other circuits, but here when you come to Nashville, it's Rubbins not necessarily racing. Everyone, I don't think there was a single car out there tonight that didn't make contact with another car at some point during the evening. It was just the level of difficulty here at Nashville is high, but it rewards guys that can look after their car like you did in such a great manner this evening.
Oh yeah, thanks. I totally agree with you on that. Yeah, pretty much there's one fast line and that's the bottom, and we're all fighting for it. And then if you come in too hot to try to get into that, you start creeping up the track, and that's when you can start, bumping into the guys on the outside of you. And so yeah, it was. I had a few run-ins when I was on the outside, and somebody just came up and either tapped me or I know I did the same probably a few times myself to some of these other guys. So I totally agree.
Well, Kyle, obviously, you started out the season at Daytona strong with that podium finish of 3rd place. Last week, just outside the top 10 and 13th, but it did drop you a couple spots in the standings. So how important is it for you with this run to now make forward progress again up through the point stands with Pocono looming next week?
Oh, it's huge. I'm really trying to just get like a momentum going, and after last week, I thought, I mean, it was just a bad race, but yeah, I need all the momentum that I can get going into Pocono, because I don't think I'm the fastest there, but yeah, it definitely helps when you can gather the points where you can. It definitely helps at the end of the season to have that in case if you have a bad race, whether it be for me at Pocono or something down the line here. But you always have them races where um, you just either get wrapped up in something or it just isn't going good that evening.
Well, it certainly went good for you here in the closing stages, bringing it home in the runner-up position here tonight. 2 of the Rebel Racing cars finishing up inside of the podium. So congratulations to you, Kyle. We're now going to let you have the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Yeah, definitely want to thank you guys for putting on a great show again. You always do. I would like to thank my teammates, all 3 Chris's, Tom, my dad, Ron, and all the sponsors. Without them, we would have a lot, of uh, more money to spend on ourselves. So yeah, definitely. Uh, and I would like to thank Shake Shack for that smooth vanilla shake to get me in the second.
Oh man, vanilla milkshakes for everybody, or milkshakes in general for everybody. It seems like here tonight at Nashville Super Speedway. But Kyle, congratulations on a great run. Congrats on giving Bam Racing, I think, probably the best finish they ever had in their entire racing career. Getting that runner finish here tonight. Best of luck to carry this momentum next week into Pocono.
All right, thanks, guys, and hope to talk to you after Pocono.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting that you brought up, Scott, when you were talking with Kyle about the fact of, just about everybody in the field, which actually everybody in the field made contact at some point or another. It was who made the least amount of contact. As we know, ice racing does scoring in terms of incident points. Kyle Gartner had the second less incident points here tonight with 5. The guy that bested him with only 4 is the guy that sits in victory lane, Aaron Brown, and we're going to talk with him now as he celebrates his first career win here in the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series. Hey, Aaron, it's Scott and Seth up here in the booth. You got us?
Yes, I do.
And I mean, I was noticing your car cutting up through the field back around lap 20, and it looked fast. As soon as you got to the front, though, seemed like nobody was able to touch you. Been an up and down first couple of weeks, had the runner-up at Daytona, got involved in that late race incident last week at Atlanta, but how good does it feel just 3 races into your career to be parking this thing in victory lane?
Feels great, man. I don't know. It's third start. Just feels amazing to get up here. I knew I had a opportunity to have get a win in this series, and glad to do it off early. Hopefully to pick up some more later on in the season.
Yeah, so I mean, Aaron, you started so deep in the pack, and it's a track that's difficult to overtake on, but you knew that you had 150 laps ahead of yourself, and the nature of the track pretty much guaranteed cautions. I mean, when you qualify and you know that you've got a good car underneath you, and you qualify so far back, what goes through your mind? How do you start the race? Because you can't just come out with the same strategy that you would have gone into that race with. You have to make changes.
Yeah, qualifying in mid pack to the back is definitely a setback at the beginning, but I know I'm really good at tire saving at a concrete track. It's gonna eat up tires pretty good, just like last week at Atlanta. So the plan is just save those tires, just hope everyone else is not as great as saving tires as I am, and get myself to work my way up there. Most of the time that's the case. Most of the time for me, I don't really qualify as well. So when I do get that chance to qualify well, hopefully I can and get a good start and have a good race up front.
Obviously, we saw JKR Motorsports go through a little bit of changes during the offseason from season 1 to now season 2. Last season, 15 races. JKR Motorsports went to victory lane for 8 of them, of course, with Matthew Robinson winning the championship. So when you come into season 2, we've seen Savati win. Now you're in victory lane. Do you guys come in here with a mentality of, well, we set the bar for ourselves last season. Now we got to try and either reach that bar or even exceed that bar here in season 2. Is that at all in the back of your mind when you take the green flag in these races, or does that not play a factor at all?
Yeah, it is a little bit at least for my other teammates. My is just chill out and yeah, by the end of the day we want to get to that bar, but try our best, and right now it seems like we're doing okay. So really good for it. So I think we can hopefully reach that by the end of the season.
Well, Aaron, congratulations on a strong performance here tonight, up front when it counted, and keeping them in your rearview mirror to pick up your first win here in the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series. We're now going to turn the microphone over to you, let you do some victory lane thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, thank the guys over at Coastal Pacific Marketing for having them on the car. Great guys to have on the car. I also got to thank my teammates, Patrick Jenks, DJ Daniel, Brock Salvati, Jeremy Richmond. I think I'm getting all of them. Oh yeah, Alex Curfan, and got to thank all of them. Brock Salvati too. I think I've already said them, but got to thank all of them putting on helping me through the race, helping me calm down in those last few at checkers because nerves pretty high. Got to thank the admins for having putting on this league and letting us all out here have fun. And I gotta thank you guys for the broadcast. Another great broadcast for you guys to put on.
Aaron Brown's going to be the winner here tonight in the BackFire 200 presented by Hubka Real Estate Group. First win of his career and certainly looking like maybe not his last here this season. Look to see if maybe you can double down next week when you guys take to the tricky triangle of Pocono, but for now, go enjoy that win.
Thank you.
And a wild night of racing here at the Nashville Super Speedway now comes to a close. I asked the question just before we came on the air here, Scott, would we see the streak go 3 for 3 in the first 3 races of the season with a driver getting their first career win? And Aaron Brown answered that. So far this season, all 3 drivers have gotten their very first checkered flag in this league. Next week, the task just gets tougher because we go to a track that's got 3 corners, 3 entirely different corners at Pocono.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, Seth. I love Pocono. Pocono is right up there. It's to be perfectly honest, this season the BackFire Cup has been one of the more intense seasons in terms of difficulty levels when you look at the tracks. First up, we had Daytona. You know, you've got to manage the difficulty of a super speedway. You've got to manage the expectations of all the drivers that are around you and where they want to be at particular points in the race. You've also got to manage fuel, you name it. Everyone knows Daytona. Then we went to Atlanta. Atlanta, the race whereby we had 3 grooves going, tire wear was such a big factor, and we had a lot of incidents because guys just were struggling. Yeah, plain and simply, and then after that, you back it up by coming to Nashville, and it's another difficult race for a lot of guys, and then from there on, we're on to Pocono. You know, it's a difficult season for the entire field, and I think there's a few guys out there tonight that are going to look back at tonight's race and go, there was a couple of crucial moments throughout that race where I didn't make the correct call, and I need to make that better. But as a result, you know, if you take a league like this, where the drivers are so close to a lot of difficult racetracks, what you end up doing, you'll create some drama, you'll create some rivalries, you create some great racing at times as well. All 3 of those things have definitely happened, but ultimately you're going to create better drivers over the long haul. And I expect to show up next week at Pocono, and we've had 2 phenomenal races in the last 2 weeks at non-super speedway tracks. Daytona is always a phenomenal race, don't get me wrong, but I'll separate that out in its own nice little box. But Pocono's going to be another next level race. And Aaron Brown's been there lurking under the surface, finally gets his win. Next week, Tom Bourne, he's been unlucky at multiple occasions. Some of you out there will say it's the green on the car. Some of you out there will say it's the Flatout Racing Network's logo that's on the car. For Tom Bourne, he's got an uphill battle now. He's got to really put himself forward for the championship, get himself back in contention. That has to be his focus. A top 5 finish only should be his focus for next week at Pocono, and there'll be guys right up and down the field who need to get that mindset together. Winning a race isn't the end of the day. You know, you have to make sure you go to finish. So next week, I'm expecting another absolute firecracker, phenomenal race at Pocono.
Mentioned this last week at Atlanta, a lot of different tracks making their debuts here on the schedule as opposed to last season. Nashville tonight was one of them. Pocono next week is going to be yet another one. So we hope that you guys next Friday night grab yourself a milkshake, sit down and join us when the green flag flies at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we'll be bringing you coverage from the Tricky Triangle here for the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series. But once again, congratulations to Aaron Brown. 3rd start of his career, first trip to victory lane in the BackFire 200 presented by Hubka Real Estate Group. Scott, it's been a blast here tonight in the home of country here in Nashville. Appreciate you joining me in the booth.
The home of milkshakes, apparently, as well. Can we get a shout out to Nashville Super Speedway, see if they can throw up a milk bar at the track circuit for fans to enjoy? Look, Seth, so far, I've enjoyed commentating this series. The level of racing has been phenomenal, mate. I will see you here next week.
Sounds good. Hope we see you all as well. Thanks for tuning into our coverage here tonight from Nashville Super Speedway, and see you next week for Pocono. For Scott Rankin, I'm Seth Cole signing off as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's